Good evening. It's episode 94. I was actually working out when episode 100 was going to be just a couple of minutes ago. That comes up in March, I believe, so stay tuned for that one. That will be an exciting show. Welcome. It's the ProSynth Network live show. We are here live, coming at you from mostly the UK today, but we do have a representative from the United States of America who I shall introduce to you very, very shortly. Welcome to the show. If you haven't been here before, thanks for coming along. If you're watching on catch-up, thanks for scrolling back to us and watching us again. And to everyone that's in the chat room, I won't go through you all by name, but welcome to everyone that's in there. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions for our guest, then do please put them in there and we will try and get to them at some point during the show. If you want to donate to the channel, because of course we are completely funded by our audience, you can do so through the YouTube Super Chat and Super Stickers program, so you can just hit those buttons over there. And of course you can also donate to us at this very address, where it's our PayPal account. So again, that link is in the bottom in the description. Thank you ever so much in advance for any of your donations, and thanks to everyone that's donated so far. We've had some superbly generous donations that have allowed us to maybe invest in a little bit more equipment, a little bit more subscription time, and we'll be putting that money to great use over the course of the year. Of course, you can also follow us on all social media channels right here on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course on YouTube. It's all the same handle at ProSynth Network. So all of those links are there. And yeah, if you could hit the subscribe and the like button if you haven't already, that would be fantastic too, because that helps us. So thank you all very much for joining us. First of all, let's bring in my two co-hosts for the night. First of all, Mr. Ben Simpson, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, brilliant. Looking forward to chatting with tonight's guest. And,
yeah.
I've got a vocal recording session tomorrow, which I'm not looking forward to at all, because I don't like recording vocals. It's the worst. I'm not singing.
I was going to say, is it your vocals?
Oh, no. I'm not singing, but I hate recording vocals, It's I don't know. It's really annoying. So yeah. I'm wishing I was doing something else, but unfortunately I'll be doing that.
I've never recorded vocals myself. I've had somebody record vocals and then send them to me, and they recorded them brilliantly, and I literally had to do nothing to them, but never had that pleasure myself.
Oh, it's a nightmare, I think.
Are you a bit warmer in the studio? Have you got the heating on today?
I've got a little radiator thing here.
Lovely.
At the side. You can just spot it.
It's been a bit chilly, hasn't it?
With the changes in energy prices, I probably could have bought a synth for
I know. Tell me about it.
That's cost me, but
yeah. We have heating oil, kerosene heating oil here. So all the central heating in the water is powered by that, and the price of that. I mean, everyone's complaining about electricity and gas. Oil is just terrible. It's double what I used to pay just a few years ago. And they come chasing after me the beginning of this week for some extra money, because what I normally pay each month isn't covering it. So yeah, scary times. Anyway, thanks ever so much for joining us, Ben, as per. Good to see you. Let's bring in our other co-host. He is the synth tech extraordinaire, fixes the synthesizers and other parts of very famous musicians and rock stars. Mr. Kent Spong, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. You've got the we've got Hans behind you back again, or Hans's chest.
Yeah.
Hello, Hans. How's your week been?
Yeah, busy as usual. Redesigned the studio again, as you can tell.
What
did I? Yeah, done quite a few keyboards this week. Did a
Anything
DX1 today.
Oh, nice. No, DX7. That was a DX7, mate.
No, it wasn't. It was DX7. You're right. I've been calling it a DX1 all day.
I know.
But the guy was a bit pissed when he came to pick it up. But so that was all sorted out. So it's been hectic as per.
Good. Well, hectic is good. Is good. How's the car, by the way? I can see you got your T-shirt on.
Oh yeah, that's about the only thing that hasn't got a dent in it now. So, no,
Did
it
you
wasn't
manage
too
to?
bad. It got hit on the wheel, but it was all right.
Oh, that's
the
good.
alignment, and she was okay.
Oh, jolly good.
So she's all right. But.
Excellent stuff. Good. Well, great to have you here as usual. Thank you for coming along. And let's bring in this week's guest. I've been dying to get this gentleman on for a very long time, and we finally got him on. I've known of this fellow for many, many years. Sort of in the early 2000s, I was doing some kind of freelance work with Hollow Sun that was kind of attached to Alesis and Akai, and I used to get copied in on loads of emails, and this name was always there. And then when I saw him spring up in various places, I thought, I know that guy. But he is the chief executive officer of a company that has severely and very well disrupted the synthesizer manufacturing community over the last few years with the fantastic HydraSynth. It is my great honour to introduce Mr. Glen Darcey.
Hello.
How are you today?
Right. I'm doing well.
And whereabouts is this? Your home studio we find you in today?
This is the office here.
Excellent. Do you work from home? Is it? I mean, even pre-COVID, are you a home-based guy?
Yeah, I've been home-based for a lot of years. Back in the Akai days, we had an office in Culver City for a little while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we had to make that commute, which is like from where I am to Culver City is like the worst commute that you can possibly have in Los Angeles.
Right.
But
and you're on the West Coast.
We did that for a few years, and then they shut down that, and I've been here since.
No, so you reside on the West Coast of the US, yeah?
Yeah, we're in Los Angeles.
Lovely stuff. Lovely. It's been a while since I've been there. So thanks ever so much for coming along. We're going to chat with you about a great many things across the show. There you go. Hit my button and look at you all appear.
Yes.
Because, I mean, Glen, you've worked. I was doing a bit of research. 360 Systems, I think, was your first kind of music technology role.
Yeah.
And that was a revolutionary piece of gear. And then, from 360 to Roland, and then Akai, Alesis, Arturia. You went through a phase with companies that begin with the letter A.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Well, I'm still in the A phase.
Oh, cool. And of course, Ashun Sound Machines, of course, which has just been, it's just what a remarkable story over the last few years that company has had with effectively what is just one instrument, but, with four versions of it. You must be super proud of what's been achieved.
Oh, amazingly so.
Yeah.
It's all been kind of a dream come true. Mm-hmm. The people I work with are amazing. It's the best upper management, the best team I've worked with. I can't say enough how blessed I am to work with these people, to be able to do something like the HydraSynth, which is a culmination of a bunch of things that I've wanted to do over the years, and being able to have the freedom to do that is it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I was saying off air before we came on that I'm the only person in this little quadrangle here that doesn't actually have a HydraSynth or has never seen or touched or played one. So I'm completely devoid of any kind of opinion. I know, yes, naughty. I will rectify that as soon as I can. But I'm going to defer to Kent and Ben later on for specific inquiries about that. But I have some questions. So yeah, we'll get into that. And of course, if any of you people out there in the chat room have any questions, throw them into the chat room. Try and tag myself and Ben at ProSynth Network or at Ben Simpson. And we'll make a note of those, and we'll throw those towards Glen a little bit later on when we get more in depth with that. Yes, we've also got your one of your fellow colleagues in there, Ken. Apparently, I'm in so much trouble for not having a HydraSynth. I will rectify that as soon as possible.
We got to help you out on that one. You got to have that, because that's kind of just a void in your life that
absolutely.
I'm not sure how you can be happy.
Well, I think I'm deluding myself. Maybe I really am unhappy, but yeah, we'll see. No, it's definitely a hole in my collection, because everyone that I speak to who's got one. I mean, these two guys. Did Chris have one? I can't remember if Chris had.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah,
had,
he had.
Chris had one.
Yeah,
it's like everyone has got one. Yeah, every time you see, like I saw a video yesterday. Mark Barnes is doing. He's got the JD08. But he's using the HydraSynth as his controller, and so it just seems to be like everyone's go-to board these days. So yeah, I am stuck in the past, I must admit. So yeah, we will rectify that. Anyway, we will come back to Glen in more detail about his career. So again, throw your questions into the chat room. We will do our best to ask those for you. In the meantime, we have one order of business that we need to get out of the way. So you might remember, this is crazy. So you might remember that over Christmas we ran a Christmas giveaway, and we had a whole stack of fantastic plugins to give to you guys, and all you had to do was answer 3 very easy questions, and yeah, a whole bunch of people got them right. Some of them got them wrong. We put the names in a hat. Actually, more to the point, we put them in a wheel, spinny wheel, and we spun it, and we got 3 people's names. And unfortunately, the person that got the top prize wasn't able to accept the prize, and so he then said, look, give it away again to somebody else. So what we did was we bumped James Dyson, who came out second. We bumped him up to number 1. And we had a spare license, an AX73 license, a Martinique AX73. And we drew it again last week, and a gentleman called Paul won that copy. And we thought, that's it, brilliant. Christmas giveaway is done and dusted. Bless him. Paul contacted me 2 days later and said, I never, ever win anything. And when I do, it's for something I've already got. So he'd already got an AX73 license because it was that good. So again, he could have kept it, he could have sold it on, but no, he was very generous and he gave it back to us and said, look, give it to somebody else who doesn't have one. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to try and get it right tonight and get a winner. These are the last 5 names that were in the winning pot. We drew everyone else out. So Jason Crouch, Torsten Heinzer, Jim Glue, Dave Bolden and Brian Oliva, you guys got the question right, and you now stand a chance of winning a copy of Martinique's AX73 plugin. So I know Jim's in the room. He's saying he might actually win now, so I'm assuming that he hasn't already got the AX73. Let's keep our fingers crossed that whoever does win this time can actually accept the prize. I have to also say thank you very much to Johnny at Martinique for putting up with me backwards and forwards, saying he's the winner, no he's not, now he's the winner, no he's not, and he's been really cool about everything. So let's do this. Let's shuffle the names on the wheel, and then very quickly we will go to the center and spin the wheel. Oh, we need some music, don't we? I could have done the music, couldn't I? And it's Brian Oliva. Oh, poor Jim. You won away there, mate. It's Brian Oliva. So hopefully Brian doesn't have AX73, and I haven't seen his name whiz by in the chat room, but we will get that copy off to you, well, at the weekend, I should say. Let me just write this down, otherwise I shall forget. Brian, not Brain, blimey, I can't spell. Brian Oliva. I know he does watch the show regularly, so Brian has won a copy of AX73. Wonderful. Hopefully, nice. I shall remove him from the list, and I'm not going to get rid of this wheel until we've definitely got rid of the prizes. Oh dear, it's like nobody wants free stuff anymore. There we go. So let's crack on. It's like for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been like a desert wasteland when it comes to music technology news, and right now. We've got kind of an influx of cool things. There's a few things I just want to whiz through because there's nothing really to discuss so much, but they are kind of like newsy type announcements, and we just wanted to make our audience aware of them. So the first one is that Akai Multimedia are giving away a copy of one of their EQ plugins from their T-Rax 5 package. Is it T-Rex? It is T-Rex 5 still, isn't it? I'm not sure. They didn't go to 6. I can't remember now.
Yeah, it is 5.
It is 5.
Yeah.
So they're giving away T-Rex EQ81, which is based on the Neve 1081, I believe, EQ, and it's free through January 31st for all T-Rex users, and that includes CS, and the CS version is the free version. So you genuinely don't have to pay for anything here. All you've got to do is sign up for the Akai Multimedia newsletter, which is very it doesn't come out very often. It's, you're not going to get spammed, and this is worth it. It's a $99 value, so it's well worth it. So yeah, all you got to do is just go to ikmultimedia.com and go to their news section, find this, click on the button, make sure you've got an account with IK. Again, it's a free thing. Set that up and it will be put into your account, and then you can download it through their product manager free of charge. Has anyone used this particular EQ? I've messed around with it and it seems very nice. Ben, have you used this one?
I've not used the original device itself, but I have downloaded this, which was a bit of a process in itself, because I thought, right, you follow the instructions, you go to My Products, you do this, you do that, and then there's no download for it, and then what actually happens is you've already got all these things inside your T-Racks, haven't you? And it just activates it. So if you've already got T-Racks on your computer, you don't have to do anything really. Just
refresh, isn't it?
Redeem it, don't you?
Redeem the code, and it just
redeem it, and then it works. But don't waste an hour like I did looking for the download, because you've already got it.
Yeah. But it's there.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very much of a sculpting kind of EQ. It's fixed parametric, but you can get some really, really good results, and you can bypass the EQ altogether and just use the preamps, which is it's a really useful EQ, and it sounds really nice as well.
Cool.
Is it a 78? The 1078, the one below this. I don't understand why.
There's two, isn't there?
Yeah, this is the more sophisticated version. I don't know why they didn't give the other one away free, but I'm glad they didn't, because this gives you a lot more control. Yeah. It's a great bit of software for free, and all you've got to do is sign up for the newsletter. Which
that's it.
And like you're saying, they don't mind you.
It's very infrequent and very useful. And they tend to have kind of good offers there. So anyway, just wanted to get that one out there. So hopefully don't crash the IK website, but go and fill your boots with that one. That's available now until the end of the month, the free thing. And they do this like 3 or 4 times a year, don't they? Give one of the the plugins away. Some other news. This is quite an interesting one, and it's got a lot of people bent out of shape, and some maybe not so much. And that was the announcement from Steinberg that they are discontinuing VST support in all of their hosting products, so Cubase and Nuendo and whatever. Now, VST2 obviously is an older format. The SDK was discontinued about a year or 2 ago, I think. And I think, from what I'm reading here, because it's not 100% clear, but I think this is just Steinberg saying we're going to stop supporting VST2. I don't think this means everyone, but I think it's going to give a bunch of people a kick up the backside to hurry up and get stuff into VST3 format if they haven't already. I mean, most plugins do come in, different flavors, but Reason, for example, don't support VST3s, which is just odd.
They're going to have to now.
They're going to have to eventually, but they don't seem to be too bothered, certainly in the communications I've had with them. But VST2 will be discontinued, although it does say, as it stands, Steinberg hosts continue to offer VST2 compatibility. Mac users with Apple Silicon can continue to use VST2s under Rosetta 2, which obviously isn't ideal, but basically within the next 24 months, Steinberg's host applications and plugins across all platforms will only be VST3. So that's happening, and there's no stopping it. Wow. Glenn, are you surprised at how long VST2 has lasted, how long it's taken for VST3 to kind of take over? Are you a plugin guy at all? I mean, you're in a room full of hardware there. I'm not entirely sure what you use in terms of software.
I used to use a lot more software, and I worked for a software company that had a lot of software. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that it lasted as long as it did. That's kind of a good testimony to the format.
True.
But I'm not surprised that they haven't moved on past it already. It makes sense. I mean, there's things that just, especially when you're dealing with old code bases like that, you run into problems trying to support it. And sometimes it's problems that are forced on you by other people. So like at Arturia, we had problems at times and it was because Apple changed the Xcode and wouldn't support older machines. So we wanted to, but when you change Xcode, then you can't. Now all of a sudden you're having to do the same code in 2 different places, and you can't do that, and you have to move on. So
yeah, sure,
it makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, that music technology protocols, MIDI, VST 1 and 2 even, really do stand the test of time. They last, don't they? They're very well built, and certainly I mean, VST3s have been out for some while. Of course, we do have audio units in the Mac world, but these platforms aren't. They don't just sort of come and go. We are quite spoiled in that regard, I think. Yeah,
it's a lot of years that we've gotten to use a lot of these things. Now, for me, as I'm kicking my desk and my camera is looking like there's an earthquake in Los Angeles, there isn't. Part of my thing is why I'm surrounded by hardware, and there's a bunch you can't see off this direction as well. But like we were talking earlier, the Xpander, I bought that in 1985, and it still runs, and I still use it all the time. I've had a lot of software over the years that the company went away, and because your computer updates or you have to buy a new computer or whatever, you can't use it anymore. So it's kind of money that goes out and kind of goes away. Now, granted, it's a lot less money, but you have to, I think when you're in certain software, you have to kind of get to the mindset that, I'm going to use this tool for a couple of years, and if it goes away, then okay, then I'll use something else afterwards.
Yeah.
And I kind of like well-done hardware that you can sit there and really delve into it. I find new stuff on my Prophet 5 all the time. I've owned one since 1982.
Right.
But there's always things that you're discovering the more you get into it. And I'm not against software in any way, shape, or form. I use 3 different DAWs, and I use a lot of plugins. But for me personally, this works.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Mike Metley in the chat room, welcome, sir. He's going to be back on the show soon. He doesn't know it yet, but he will be. Apparently, in the first years of plugins, there were no fewer than 10 standards. I'm trying to remember what some of those were. I mean, I know that most stuff nowadays comes supplied in VST2, VST3 audio units, and AAX. But there was different Pro Tools plugins, I think, wasn't there?
Yeah,
and,
Artas.
That's it, Artas. Yeah, I've forgotten all about those ones.
DXI or something.
Whoops, I didn't mean to put that one on the screen. Yeah, there were lots of different formats. So,
and if there's 10 standards, are they really a standard?
Well, exactly. Yes, exactly. So there you go. So VST2s will be going the way of the dinosaur fairly soon, but in 2 years. We've had 2 years. We've had so many warnings pretty much since VST3 came along, but now we do have that kind of final 2 years from Steinberg, and hopefully everyone will follow suit, and hopefully people like Reason Studios will finally support either audio units and or VST3s on either platform, because that would be great, because you can't use things like Roland Cloud plugins in Reason, which is just silly, but there you go. Right, some exciting news again, but I'm just going to I'm not going to play the whole thing as much as it's tempting to, because it's a lovely piece of music, but Dave Spears and his crew over at GForce put this out just the other day. And it's all just billed as the January 2022 teaser. We will know more on Tuesday at 3 p.m, I am told. Now, I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, what is this? And it sounds like something that's been put through a Strymon of some description. It has that feel to it. But it's lovely. Whatever it is, it's absolutely lovely. But they're billing this as something new. And it's all very slow, but yet familiar. So something new, yet familiar. And then the next statement is, and another first. So something new, yet familiar, and another first in software instruments. Something new, yet familiar, and a first in software instruments. That's all they're telling us until you get to, and I don't know if I can do this, but it doesn't matter if I can't, because when you get to 2 minutes and 14, it flicked away. They did a 1 frame like subliminal blip. Now, a little piece of video editing software later, I was able to capture that, and there it is. That's it. That's the frame. And Kent and I have been looking at this, and we have no idea what this is, and we're both fairly close. I spoke to Dave just the other day. I'm sure Kent has done the same very recently. Nothing, not a thing. Some people have suggested that because Dave Spears acquired an Oberheim OB1 fairly recently, that it might be that. But I think that's somebody applying the Uli Behringer paradigm. That every time Uli Behringer buys something,
that's in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's there, is it?
Yeah, it's in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh, right, nice.
Work.
Oh, well, so it can't be that then.
Would you say that was a first, though? If they made an OB1... I mean, there isn't another OB1 as far as I'm aware, but like it's still like a kind of SEM kind of idea.
Yeah, true.
Almost. But I wouldn't say it was a first.
One of our observant members on the Facebook group, and I should have written their name down and I didn't, so I apologise, but you know who you are, suggested that this looks very similar to the knob layout on a Mark II Mellotron. You know the one with the split keyboards? You have is it the M400?
M400.
Yeah, the Mark II. I should have got a picture up. Maybe I will in just a second. But that looks very similar. And of course, they have form in the Mellotron department. Something new yet familiar. Is it a new M-Tron? I don't know.
You know when you just played that video?
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm listening to it and I'm going, oh,
Did you have
tell me about this.
Oh, right. Well, I'm not going to...
NDA.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to ask you because...
No, and I just realised what it is. Yeah, and I've just remembered what it is.
You'll have to mute your camera for a minute.
Yeah. I'm not going down that path.
No.
At all.
No.
I mean, I don't
Dave
break
too
NDAs.
much.
Yeah, I don't break NDAs at all. But if I was going to break any NDA, it would not be.
But it comes out in a couple of days, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's Tuesday, so I can wait. But I'm just trying to find a picture. That's why I've left you on screen just for a moment there. Let's see if I can bring this up.
Stare at the CS80.
Where's your...
Yeah. Just
Kent, where's your HydraSynth gone in this studio reshuffle?
Let me see if I can reach up here. There she be. Closer.
Yes.
Hello, darling.
Yes.
Sweetie.
Very nice.
Oh, right. I'm going to
Really
just...
goes well with the Oasis.
Yeah.
Oh, shut up.
Oh,
Right, okay, I've managed to find a picture of the Mellotron that we were talking about. Let's see, here it is. This is the Mark II. Now you tell me. There it is.
Oh yeah, it's definitely that bit there.
So you look at that.
Yeah.
And you look at that.
Yeah, it's definitely that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Glenn?
Could be.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's the knob layout.
Yeah, but that's not what it's
Sounds
about.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
GForce does good software.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
one of the first plugins I ever bought was Imp Oscar.
Yeah.
All the way back.
Yeah.
Great plugins. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose there's lots of people speculating in the chat room. But
I thought it was going to be an effect.
Yeah, you said that, didn't you?
I was convinced it was going to be an effect. And the way that demo, then it's all frozen kind of reverbs, and it's as much about the effects as the sound that's being processed. But then it says a new software instrument, so that completely cancels my idea out.
Yeah.
But it does. It seems as though they're promoting an effect.
Could be. It could. I mean, I genuinely don't know. Somebody does, and I'm going to beat him to a pulp after the show. He won't. I know he won't. Yeah. But no. So it's interesting. GeForce coming out with something new, and speaking to Dave, there's a lot of exciting things happening in that area of the software world. So lots of good stuff coming from GeForce. I hope fairly soon. Because I have asked Dave that once he has an inkling or he's able to talk about it, he's going to come on here and tell us. But yeah, so something new from GeForce Software that may or may not be Mellotron related, or may not be an effect. I mean, they've not done effects, so they do effects versions of some of their plugins, don't they? But they're almost like just feeding it through the synth, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway. Yeah. There we go. Let's see what else. Another quick piece of something that I just literally added in 5 minutes before I jumped onto this, but I did say that I would give him a shout out. I'm just trying to find. Here it is. So Craig Aspin, we do need to get Craig on the show. Craig runs a studio up north in the northwest. He's just actually bought a church, and he's what's the term? Is it deconsecrated when it's been like shut down and no longer used for religious purposes? So he's bought the building and is putting a studio in there. But we know Craig best for his overlays for synthesizers, and I said that I would give this a very quick plug. But he's getting very close to fulfilling the minimum requirements for his Oberheim Xpander and Matrix 12 panels, and he's looking for people to put in orders so that he can get up to speed and get those made and printed. I know, Kent, you're looking at getting some synth techs together to maybe all kind of chip in, but I said I'd give him a plug. We've plugged him many times, and we will continue to do so because what he does is really great. But if you're looking for membrane replacement of membranes for specifically the Matrix 12 and the Xpander, and he's also doing this one here. He's doing is this the M6? Oh, he's doing limited edition Oberheim Xpander in custom like formats with the SEM kind of colorings as well. So lots of different options there. But please, if you are kind of in the market, hit him up. It's sweetdiscrete.co.uk. Please hit him up for any information. He does also do one-off membranes. That's the word I was looking for. But you do pay quite a bit of that because it does cost a lot to make. But if you are in the market for something that's very rare and specific, he can do that as well. But he also has an ever-expanding range of membranes, and they are superb quality. I think we've shown them on the show before. I've got some here. I know Dom has used it on his KX88, and they are just really, really good. So there we go. I just promised I would mention that one.
Could he do one for an anaglyph?
He might do. Hey, yeah, there you go. Ken, will you have a need for membranes on the anaglyph?
Possibly. Yeah.
There you go. We need to put you to.
It's going to be mostly engraved gold, but
oh yeah,
of course it is.
24 karat. Yeah.
Of course. Right. Let's see what else do we have. Let's get into some meatier news topics. And this one actually, this is going to be quite relevant for our guest this week, because Glenn, amongst the many companies he's worked for, has worked for the great Roland Corporation. And this year, Roland are celebrating 50 years in the business, and they have produced a web page that celebrates this, and it goes through the various decades. It's a real nice piece of web design here with lots of information and images of all of their products, down the timeline. There's different clips, there's playlists to be heard, all sorts of really, really cool stuff. And interviews and so on. You can flick through each decade, 70s through to the 2020s. And along with this multimedia celebration of their work, they are now talking about a 50th anniversary instrument. They haven't said what it is, whether it's a synthesizer or maybe it's a wind controller or a drum machine or what. But they said that on April 18th, which I believe is the actual 50th birthday, should we say, the day the company was incorporated or something, that's when it's going to be released. So who wants to take a stab at what Roland's 50th anniversary instrument might be? Let's go to our guest, Glenn, because you having worked there, how long did you work at Roland for?
I was there for 7 years.
Wow.
I'm going to share my my toys that I brought here.
Oh, cool.
So, being that it's their 50th anniversary, I have this.
See,
new
cardboard
old
box.
stock in the box.
Wow, look at this.
It is a Roland 10th anniversary belt buckle.
Wow,
Yes.
look at that.
Yes.
1982.
Wow.
With the owner's manual.
Because you need one for those with that.
And a 10th anniversary. It's hard to get it in the light.
Oh, yeah. Embossed
10th anniversary luggage tags.
Amazing.
Oh,
With
wow.
my old
Look at that.
business card.
Yay.
Oh, that's super cool.
Wow.
So I figured I'd share my 10th anniversary stuff. On
Yeah,
this
that's super cool.
Nice.
So any thoughts on what the 50th anniversary instrument might be?
Well, I
Or
might
maybe
go
what-
back. If I was going to say what would we do, I'd probably go back and do a reissue of whatever their first product might have been.
Which,
So,
according to the
I
website,
think it was one of the early rhythm
that's it.
composers.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, you're
think.
spot on. It's the TR-33, 55, and 77 were the first three products. So
So
Yeah.
if I was going to do my 50th anniversary reissue, that's what I would do. This our first product redone.
yeah, good call. Because there is a lot of people have been asking like for obviously reissues of the 808 and the 909, which they've done in software. But lots of people, an inordinate amount of people, asked for the CR78, and I was thinking, oh, maybe the CR78. But obviously these precede that, so maybe yeah, that's an interesting thought. Ben,
Somebody in the comments mentioned Roland Funny Cat. Yeah, that was a preset on one of the old original synths, and we used to work with one of
oh yeah,
one of the engineers. His and he always talked about, yes, I did Funny Cat.
superb. Yeah, this standalone D beams. That would be fun. That comes in for a lot of unnecessary stick, doesn't it? The D beam, bless it.
Well, is it unnecessary though? I mean,
No.
it's just not well thought out at all, the D-beam, because as soon as you get your keyboards in some kind of stacking situation, the keyboard above triggers the D-beam on the one below.
True.
It's just a ridiculous. I've got several synthesizers with D-beams on, and they're all disabled where
How do you
possible,
disable the
know.
D beam? Is it just a piece of tape over it?
No, because that'd mess it up. I think that.
of course. Yeah, of course,
Sounds a
yeah.
bit bananas if you did that. It's just like you could switch it off in the settings. I think.
I tell you who.
Well, go on,
I'll say,
sorry.
I tell you who we've got to ask about D beams is Martin Ware next week, because Martin, every time I go and see him play with Heaven 17, he has his V synth. And he does a lot of this or that. Yes, this hand. And he does a lot of that. So we need to ask him about D-Beam and his thoughts.
I think where Roland slipped up with the D-beam, apart from it being shit, it was.
So you think?
It is that light should have come out of it. Like, because when you stand there like this, and you're going like this, to people who know what's going on,
yes,
they're like, oh yeah, he's using the D-beam controller. But to the general public, you just look as though you're having a stroke or something. It's because they've got no idea what you're doing. They can't see anything, and half the time it's not making that much difference to the sound either. So, yeah, D-beam was the beginning of the end for Roland for me, I think.
I think with the low-cost drone technology that's out there now, there needs to be something with drones and D-beams. You could work out some.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Drone with just a finger on it.
Flies in, flies out.
So Ben, what do you think will Roland do for their 50th? What do you think is going to be the 50th
I'd love
anniversary
it.
thing?
I'd love it to be an analog polysynth. That'd be great. But Glenn, I think Glenn's got the right idea with those drum machines, but I just wonder how useful they've been now. Could anybody really use them now?
Yeah.
In any kind of productive way. Like Korg re-released that 700S, didn't they? But that's still very usable.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't know if they would be that usable. I can't see it. I think maybe you don't go back to the very beginning, but launch your most desired product again.
And that's a Jupiter 8 then.
The Jupiter 8 would be really nice if they said we're going to mark our 50th anniversary by releasing our greatest flagship synth.
I just can't see it.
And just do like a Jupiter 8 exactly the same. He doesn't need to do a grand piano. He doesn't need to be able to do like a Peruvian nose flute. It just needs to do
maybe they'll
waves, saw waves, and pulse waves.
Maybe they'll release a version of the Roland Cloud Manager that doesn't crash every 5 minutes and require constant. I've got a bug in because they launched a new version of it at the beginning of the week, 2.6.2. Then they did another update, 2.6.3, which fixed a few little things about it. And as soon as they did that, it broke the manual specification of the location of your sample libraries. So you can only have it pointing at the system drive rather than external drive, which has been able to be done. So yeah, they've broken that again. So yeah, that would be nice. Kent, any wishes for a 50th anniversary Roland product?
It's going to be difficult to come up with a product that celebrates the 50 years and is useful. That's technically two different products.
Yeah, true.
So you either do something that celebrates the 50 years, and like Glenn says, doing something like the very, very first thing they did, that makes sense. Something useful. Don't think it would be the JP8. You see, the JP8 is... It's romance in a metal case.
Yes.
There's loads of machines that do more, do better. Honest to God, there really. I mean, there really is. And it's. Does it? Do we need a Jupiter 8 remake? I know there's loads of people who would want a Jupiter 8 remake, but I don't think we actually need something. So something completely new.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
Hardware version of their cloud. Like a plug out.
Well, they kind of did that already, didn't they? So,
yeah, but it's got to be 25 quid.
Yeah.
The System 16.
The System 16, yeah.
Nice.
Can I just quickly acknowledge some super chats that have come in? Mark Acker, $10. Thank you very, very much indeed. And of course, Wagyu, thank you for your £5. D-beams forever, he says. Thank you, gentlemen, for those. Yeah, I think Glenn might be on the money there with, you're going to build something 50. I think, maybe a drum machine that celebrates all three of those.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Hopefully it'll be something we can get excited about. So that's all I really would like to see. Let's see, what else have we got? So we've got that. We'll do that in just a moment. How about we just quickly mention, we spoke about these when they were announced at Super Booth, whenever that was last year. I can't remember now. Time's such a flexible blur the last couple of years. Was it May of last year? Blimey, it could have been, couldn't it? But TipTop Audio mentioned that they were going to, in conjunction with Buchla, produce Eurorack versions of Buchla modules, and the first two have started to ship. What I really like about this TipTop site is that they show each of the modules and their status. So the 258T dual oscillator model is now shipping. It's $199. and as you can see, the 292 is still in its prototype phase. 257 is beta testing. 266 is beta testing, but the 281T, the quad function generator, which I have no idea what that does, but it looks nice, is now shipping at $210. So the first two of these TipTop audio modules that are based off the Buchla style are now shipping, which is nice to see that new gear is shipping in this day and age. Anybody? I know, Ben, you don't have any Eurorack, nor do you, Kent. What about you, Glenn? Are you into your modular? Because you seem like proper old school there with keyboards and modules.
Some up there, didn't you?
Oh, look at that. Yes, let's bring him back up. Look at that. Oh, so of course.
Little one up there.
Do you have any thoughts on the TipTop Buchla stuff? Does that interest you?
It interests me greatly. They've done them at the right price. That's one thing that kind of keeps me out of modular. I mean, most of what I've got up here are prototype things. So when we were mocking up circuits, a lot of times we'll mock them up in a Eurorack format to test them out. But yeah, I do have a couple rows of stuff and another little case that I use. The pricing, I think, is where it should be.
Yeah.
There's some things that are drastically overpriced when you see a 8-channel mixer for $1,000. But I love the sound of the Buchla. I love the approach, and it's always been just out of my reach to get one. I've never been able to sit there and justify it.
Yeah.
And with the prices that TipTop has done with this, I can definitely see myself buying some of these modules.
Cool stuff. Ben, Kent, will this tempt you into the world of Eurorack, or like me, will it just,
It sounds fantastic. The filters and that. I was watching some of the demos again. Like I remember when they were first rumored to be coming or announced. We were into it then, and they sounded great then. But revisiting it now, they seem to be even more interesting now. And
yeah,
I'd love to have a go of it, but I just end up making bleeps for the rest of my life. I know I would. I just get totally lost in it. I obsess about stupid things like hi-hats and that now, sit there for hours like refining this one hi-hat, and it doesn't make any difference to anybody listening. So modular it's a health warning for me, I think.
Yeah.
Mental health warning on modular gear.
Kent, are you tempted by these at all?
Sometimes. I know sometimes when I watch Rands' show, I get tempted, but I think he's really good at the way he uses them. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a salesman would use it, But no, I can't. I'm too addictive to things. I've got that nature that if I get one, I've got to have all of them.
You used to play Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get them all.
Got to have them all.
So so it would be a dangerous road for me to go down. So I try to pretend that they're crap and I don't want them.
Yeah,
and so far,
it's worked.
So far.
I've said it many times in the show. It just doesn't light a fire under me at all. It doesn't. I just can't. It doesn't move me. Move me. And maybe if somebody was to say, "Come round and we'll sit here, we'll patch something up," and I might get into it, but I doubt it. I doubt it very much. But there you go. So it's coming out. It's now shipping 2 units, and there's more to come. And if you go to tiptopaudio.com/Buchla, you can see all of the modules that they're making, the status they're in, when they're expected, and there's some nice video content in there from Super Booth as well. So there you go. That's Buchla, TipTop Audio. I'll tell you who we need to get on is we get Mark Doty on again, because he's not a Eurorack guy, but he's a Buchla guy.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear what he thinks about this and whether he might be dipping his toe into the Eurorack waters with that. A couple of bits of software news. First of all, actually, now I'm going to do this one first, because if I don't, I'll forget, and then I'll kick myself. Friend of the group, friend of the show, James Dyson, has put together a brand new pack of patches for the Arturia Matrixbrute. which he gifted himself for Christmas this year. And he was very good, wasn't he? He bought it, and it arrived like 2 months before, and he boxed it and kept it until Christmas Day, and then opened it. And then he's been doing all sorts of things with it. But this is Light and Darkness. Let's play some of this. 64 custom presets, all programmed by James Dyson in the last 2 or 3 weeks. He's very quick. And there's some really great sounds on here. Did you manage to get hold of these yet, Ben?
I haven't yet, no, but okay. I am getting them. I've got his sound set for the, what's it called, DeepMind 12.
Yeah.
They were fantastic, so I'm definitely going to get these because I love the Matrixbrute. And
yeah.
These sound really nice.
They do. He is really good. I mean, he's very prolific as well. He does a lot of stuff. I've got all of his stuff for the modal, Cobalt and Argon. And I think he's doing an AX73 bank because he won that in our competition. So that's coming soon. Excuse me. If you want to order this, if you're a Matrixbrute user, you just need to find James Dyson's channel on YouTube, which we will post a link up to later. Because he's just a one-man band. He just kind of does this as more of a hobby. All you got to do is just send him £10 to your to his PayPal address, and he'll send the sound set to your email within 12 hours. So that's all you have to do to get this. So just go and look for James Dyson's page, like it, subscribe to it, watch the demos, buy the sounds. They're incredible sounds for very little money. Glenn, did you get a chance to listen to this? I know obviously Matrixbrute was one of your babies, wasn't it?
Yeah, I worked on Matrixbrute. Yeah, the beautiful sounds. I love what he's done there.
Yeah. Well, there's an endorsement. So there you go. Yeah. he'll put that on the billboard, as approved by Glen Darcey.
Coming out of the Matrix, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think when you first the link, I was thinking Polybrute, but
well, hopefully he'll get one of those, and we'll have some sound sets for that, because I definitely appreciate it. I have to say the Polybrute is fantastic. And I'm now seriously tempted of getting a Matrixbrute, but I've got nowhere to put anything. So yeah. There you go. James Dyson, Light and Darkness sound set for Arturia Matrixbrute is out now. Just go and find him on YouTube. We'll post the link up. I think we've already posted it in the Facebook group. But let me just copy that link here. Let's get that. He needs to. I'll tell you what. I'm going to have a word with him. He needs to shorten that URL. I'm hoping this will show up in the YouTube chat. But I shall do that because I think because I'm like an owner admin type thing, that should work. But let me know if it doesn't.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, it's
brilliant. There you go. So if you're into, and say he's done stuff for Matrixbrute, for Argon 8, for Cobalt 8. I think he's done some Sculpt stuff as well. He does DeepMind. They're all of his promo videos. IK Multimedia. Uno Synth Pro, he's done stuff for Korg Modwave. He just knocks them out really
quality,
quickly.
Isn't it? Max said he does pretty good vacuum cleaners too. But, it's a different Dyson. But his sound sets are really good, and what's nice about them, I think, is because he's just a one-man band. I don't think he's not trying to make that big impact, with the kind of shop front sounds, the native dance kind of things that you can't really do anything with. Well, his sounds are all like the useful sounds. You can tweak them a little bit yourself to get them exactly how you want them. It's a great starting point, but the quality sounds, I think.
He's up near you, isn't he?
Yeah, he's actually in the same town.
Oh, you're joking? No, I didn't know that.
I think we're both in the same town.
Right.
Never met him. You
two have got to hook up, and you've got to bring him into the studio, and we'll have him on the show, and we'll actually have a live guest with you.
All right, yeah.
We'll sort that out. Or if not, then I suppose COVID. Maybe not. But we'll sort something out. We'll get him on the show to get him to tell us about his methods. There you go. So that's James Dyson's Light and Darkness sound set for the Arturia Matrixbrute. Is out now. Couple more quick things just to kind of fly through here. So, in case you weren't aware, Surge are a company that make the Surge synthesizer, and it's open source and free, and they've just released Surge XT, which is still open source and free and new and improved, and winner of KVR's favourite free virtual instrument this year or last year. It's available on Mac, Windows, and Linux, so it's multi-platform. It sounds great. Roger Lynn loves it. He uses it with his Linstrument. But yeah, it's been updated and improved, and it's completely free of charge, and you can download it from surge-synthesizer.github.io. I did a Ben. I downloaded it and haven't installed it yet, so I can't attest to how good it is. But have you or anyone?
I downloaded it and I installed it, and it's really good.
Yeah,
I've not bothered with the other ones. This is my first, even though we're up to XT now. I'm not bothered with the LX or whatever it was before, and I'm just straight in at the full upgrade, And so I can't comment on the new features, but I can tell you that it's surprisingly powerful, and for free, it's amazing. I thought at first yeah, it's all right, this, and then when you notice that it's got like drop downs, for different types of filters, and when once you get into it, it's so deep. You can do loads. The comb filter, that's brilliant. It's got a really nifty sound to it. It's I think it's for free. Everybody should be using it, really.
Yeah,
you can't. It's as good as some of the expensive software, I think. And it can cover like quite a wide variety of sounds. It's got the potential to do analogy, modeling kind of things. Wavetable kinds. I think it seems to be a software attempt at a hardware synth that we're all quite,
It's I mean, for something that's free, I mean, you can't go wrong, because if you download it and you don't like it, you've not lost anything.
It's great.
It's really good. Ken is ever the pessimist in the room here. Free is how they get you. The sound has subliminal messages to get you hooked on synth. It's probably true, but like it would work on us. I mean, we're already there. Did you get a chance to download this and play with this at all, Glenn, or have you been using it before?
No, I did not.
No.
I had a bunch of stuff going on this week.
No, sure.
But I did get to listen to a couple of the sound demos. It sounds cool.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Ken?
Well, some melon didn't send me the link, so.
Do you know? I swear I did.
Oh no!
I'm going to check. I will check. I apologise profusely. I apologise in public that I didn't send you the links. I'm sure I did, because I'm sure I copied you in on the same email I sent Glenn. But maybe I don't know.
It is possible that maybe Fiona deleted it when she was going through the emails. It is possible, but no, I didn't get as you know. I almost wasn't here.
Well, yeah, it's true. But anyway, there you go. Surge XT is now available. It's free from surge-synthesizer.github.io. So that's available now. There's another little piece of software that I want to mention, or two little pieces, and then there's one piece of hardware news, and then we're definitely going to get into talking to Glenn about his history and everything ASM related and so on and so forth. So let's quickly mention these two little pieces of software. So again, one is free, one not so much, but the one that's not free is this one from Blue Cat Audio. They're doing some incredible stuff. I have their free package of plugins. But this one came out just the other day, and it's basically a virtual cable for your virtual studio. It is a streaming plugin that can stream audio and MIDI signals, and it can do that either within the same machine or different machines on the same network. So you could have two computers all connected to your Wi-Fi at home and have a plugin on one and a plugin on the other, and you can load this into the channel strip or whatever on your DAW, for example, and you can send audio from that machine into the other machine or vice versa. And it's just an amazingly clever piece of software. I couldn't personally find a use because I only use one computer, but there are many uses, and they do detail a lot of them. For example, the video here, which I won't play because it does go on a bit, talks about how you can't control certain things on this plugin, but if you use this, you can kind of loop the audio back into it from another way and then control it in a way that you couldn't normally do with the plugin itself. But it's dead cool, and it's like €39 or dollars at the moment. It's 20% off. Normally it's only $49 full price. Multi-platform and multi-plugin standard. Would anybody find this useful? I certainly wouldn't, but you guys might.
A while back, I would have done. I had me for some bizarre reason. I don't know why I did it. I had like my studio in two halves. I had a load of gear over this half that wasn't connected to that half, and I was faffing around with like. I had an audio interface into one computer over here, and I was trying to send it all down a network cable, through that audio MIDI device manager thing. I was trying to do. I'd almost lost it. I was sweating and just like sucking my thumb in corner. And in the end, I realised that if I just picked everything up and moved it over there, I could do it all anyway. I didn't have to give myself all this stress. It was just a little bit of like stop being lazy for a minute and get something done. And I moved it all over there and everything worked fine. So back then it would have been great for me. I reckon this was exactly what I was looking for. Yeah. I could have sent like drum, but I can't understand how it can do it. Especially audio over Wi-Fi, that's got to be as slow as anything. It can't be zero latency. Jim Glue actually asked, "What's the latency like?" And I can't attest to that because I haven't downloaded it. Yeah. But they say here, precise buffering control. You can achieve the lowest possible latencies down to 0 samples when used in a single application. Obviously, that's in one computer, but they say very low latency or minimal latency. Real world examples, I can't say, but it's got to be worth a punt. Any thoughts on this one, Glenn?
No, I'm kind of the same. I think that 15, 20 years ago, I could have definitely used it back when computer power wasn't so much. Back then I had 2 computers, and I had MIDI going back and forth between the 2 of them to run some plugins that I had. And again, it was some plugins that were old that I couldn't bring up to the new OS, and I was kind of relying on them back then. But now I don't have any kind of a workflow for that.
Sure.
I'm trying to just think of, maybe maybe a post-production environment where you've got multiple units in different places, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. It does seem very much like a Swiss Army knife kind of tool that can do lots of things for different use cases. But I was looking through all the examples, and I just couldn't. There was nothing there that said, that would help me do this. So I guess you see how you.
In that video example, the like you was describing before, they loop it back on itself so they can do like a parallel compression on it. So you can have the original signal coming through as well as the compressed thing.
Yeah,
I could see that, but there's other ways of doing that as well. You don't have to, I'm pretty certain that you don't have to spend 30 odd quid. I am interested in one thing where I think that they didn't really get at in that then, but the most interesting possibility for this for me would be, I like working in Cubase, but I think that the soft synths in Logic are much better. But I don't like programming. Obviously, like you've got your third party stuff and that, but like the stock plugins in Logic are miles better than the ones in Cubase. And if I could like have my laptop running Logic and all the sounds, controlling from Cubase, controlling all the Logic plugins, then it might be worth 39. It can do that. But it might be worth 39 quid for that alone. But I think, like Glenn was saying, years ago when computers weren't as powerful, then we needed something. We really needed something like this then, now we can run so much within one machine that we don't need break things off everywhere and this, that, unless there's something not available in your software to get at.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kent, any thoughts on this?
This must be a Mac thing then. I've been able to send MIDI wirelessly and audio for about 20 years.
No, it's not. I don't think it's a Mac thing. I just think it's a thing, isn't it? It's kind of like these virtual cables that you get. Like what's it? Forget the name of the product now, but you can send audio from one application to another application. Yeah. But this is kind of like, this enables you, because it's a plugin, it enables you to route the audio from specific points in your signal chain to other specific points in the signal chain, or from one device to another device across the same network. That's how I'm understanding it. But
no, I've always been able to do that with PCs.
But no, I mean, this is available for all platforms and all, So
although that was like Ben said about using plugins that are in Logic and taking that audio signal, bringing it through the network, and then being able to put it into the computer and it coming out as an audio track in Cubase on the PC, but also have the MIDI control from the controller that's plugged into the PC, controlling the various tracks that are in Logic. But it's always been, I mean, admittedly, although PC seems to have always been good in terms of the wireless side of things, or the RJ45 side of things, as far as trying to set up anything with Bluetooth, because I mean Bluetooth on a Mac is like done, sorted, lovely.
Yeah.
On a PC, it's like being hit in the face for an hour with a tramp sock full of diarrhea. It's not fun. It's just awful, and it's like after 2 hours you go, oh look, sod it, and turn it off and walk away. They say that they've improved the Bluetooth on the PCs. We get to see that.
Yeah.
And but as far as what that does, but the virtual cabling thing, I mean, oh God, that's been around since about 95.
Yeah. But I think in this, the way that they've implemented this is probably more powerful, or I don't know. It is.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing new with having different variants on the market anyway.
Yeah,
because some will do things better than another version, and so forth and so forth.
Yeah,
but I could see it more like going between. You work on a computer, but you've got an interesting iPad app that you want to treat as a plug-in. I could maybe see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is it. But also when I'm very, very lazy, because sometimes I will write tracks using a remote monitor in the front room. So I can sit at a coffee table watching TV, and I can be just writing tracks, and I can send audio and MIDI to the studio upstairs. I can do screen sharing as well via the network as well. And it wasn't very creative. It was more gimmicky anyway, so it didn't last. But it's always been available in one form or another.
Anyway, that's Blue Cat Audio. They do some great plugins. They're really good quality plugins, and they do a free set of, I think it's 7 plugins, so you can test out their quality, and then everything else they do is really, really good and very highly regarded. But it's bluecataudio.com if you want to investigate the connector. Is what it's called. Last little quick bit of software. I'll just very lightly touch on this one. Highlife, which is an old piece of software from discoDSP, has just been released as freeware for non-commercial use. But if you want to use it commercially, it's $49. It's a performance sampler. It also does VSTI sampling, but only in Windows, which was a little disappointing. But we won't do the whole complaining thing. It's a sample editor. It has built-in effects. One of the cool things about it is that it reads some of the legacy formats that some don't. For example, sound fonts, Akai S5000, S6000, Gigasampler as well, and DLS. So it can read all of those, so you can import and then export to your favorite format of choice. Supported on 32 and 64-bit, but it's now completely free of charge if you want to mess around with that. Ben, I understand you tried it and failed miserably.
Oh no, I got there.
Oh, you got it
end.
working. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. But what was going wrong is that all my my entire sample library is like 24-bit.
Right.
And I don't think this likes 24-bit samples. I think it only, well, for me anyway, it only successfully loaded 16-bit samples.
Okay.
And I love it. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm using an Amiga again when I'm using it.
Yeah.
It's like really, really retro on the graphical side of things. And the way it works, it is a bit retro as well. There's like a lot of easier ways of doing things. But it's great, because if you've come from that background of using the like Akai hardware samplers and stuff like that, it's dead easy. And it sounds great. Well, it just sounds like it's going to sound. But
they do some great stuff, discoDSP as well. Discovery Pro, OBXD, which again is, I believe that's still free. There's a whole bunch of other things in there as well. I wish they would update this Phantom. I'm sure it's Phantom. Let me just double click. Yeah. So this emulates very accurately and reads and imports a lot of the Yamaha 4-operator FM patches. So 27, 21, 100, TX81Z, DX11. You can import them in there. But unfortunately, it's never been updated beyond 1.2 and only works on Windows, which is no good to me. But I'd love them to. But they've got some really cool stuff in there, and OBXD is the one that I think you can. Again, it's one of those ones that it's for like non-commercial use. It's free, but if you want to use it commercially, it's $49, which again, it's not awful, and it's a really good OBX emulation.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm conscious of the time, so I just want to whiz through, unless anybody else has got anything to say on that. I want to cover this one piece of hardware news, because this has kind of generated a little bit of a buzz in the community, because Casio kind of said they were going to do something, and everyone was saying, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And it turns out they were going to do this, which is I have to get this right, the CT-S1000V. To give it its full name, retails for $449 and is a vocal synthesizer with built-in speakers. But instead of being like a traditional vocoder type thing where you speak into a microphone or feed audio in that respect, it uses AI, and it connects with an app on your mobile device, and then you can type in the words, and it will then play those words back. It's a bit like, I guess, Vocaloid type thing from Yamaha, where you could type in the words you wanted to say and then play those back across the keyboard. But it's all done natively in this hardware. I think we should. Let me just stop that screen. Let's have a little listen to a demo of it, and then we can discuss what we think of this. And I want to make sure I get the right video, because there's one which is kind of an introduction. It's this one here. Right. We're very professional on this show, aren't we? Right. Here we go.
Hello, I am the Casio CT-S1000V. So much music all around, I can make you sing. You won't believe it. Voices, voices. Casio,
So I think we get the idea there. I'm kind of conflicted by this because on the surface it looks like very gimmicky, but some of those demonstrations actually sound usable and quite interesting.
What I don't get though is if you're using a vocoder, you control the rhythm with your voice.
Yeah.
If you type it in on an app, how's that supposed to have any kind of groove in it or anything?
Well, it's how it's played back, because I think you can play specific syllables, so you can have syllables. What's the one that I've used before in the past? I think it's Plogue, do a kind of Vocaloid type thing. So you type in each word individually on a list, and then it will then, so for every note you play, it will then move to the next word or syllable. So you can then play different, like phrases, but have them, come out in a particular melody or something. But I guess there's lots of different ways of doing it. But no, is this not your thing, Ken?
No, it's not that. It's have you ever tried doing that? Like with Dominus, East-West choirs and stuff like that. It's it's like it's really horrible. Because if you playing a phrase and you play a bum note, the rest of that phrase is now
then out of whack, isn't
buggered.
it? Yeah.
And you have to go right, start again, and all this sort of thing. But what I'm trying to see, when I've used the VP330, for instance, very rarely do I sing into it because of even my voice sounds crap through a VP330. nothing hides the shittiness, right? But what is brilliant to put through the VP330 is drum machines,
right?
And sequencers, and vocoding synth sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really clever. But so how can you do that with that? Can you plug in stuff in the back and it will vocode stuff in the usual way, or is it just via a mobile for whatever reason that was?
I think it's only via the app, isn't it?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So you can choose from a whole bunch of stuff that's inside it, or you can add your own stuff through the app.
It looks as though they got a job lot of those screens as well off Roland when they bin the Phantom off.
So but see, what they've done there is they've technically made a hardware version of essentially a 50 quid plugin.
Yeah. But it's not just coming with that. I mean, it does come with, I think, like 800 other presets of more traditional style instruments, and it's got rhythm machines and drum patterns in there as well, plus effects and a whole bunch of other stuff. And even comes with a wireless MIDI audio and wireless audio adapter as well, which I think is Casio's own kind of format there. But I think people kind of got excited when they saw, because Casio, when they do stuff, they're kind of left field. They don't do anything that traditional, shall we say. It's also battery powered as well. I see 6 AA's in there. But it's kind of a real interesting.
It's a niche thing anyway.
Yeah. So, Glenn, can we expect anything like this on the next revision of the HydraSynth? Shaking his head quietly. What do you think of this anyway? I mean, this is it's innovative. Nobody seems to have done this before, certainly in hardware.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes there's a reason for that. I'm with Kent on this. The minute you play something wrong or you mess one note, now your whole phrase is off. So I mean, it's got built-in speakers, so it's not geared towards the pro. It's really a consumer type of product. It's something, unless it's going to help generate lyrics, I can type in like New York cab driver or crazy cat lady, and it's going to generate lyrics based on what this person would do. Then I might be into it. But it's not something
I bet you.
I'd rather have a vocoder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be more useful. I bet you we will hear something super popular that'll be because that's somebody like with a TikTok account and a load of followers will do something on this, and it'll be everywhere. And Casio will sell an absolute bucket load of these.
It'll be the new Microsoft Wordsmith. If you're Songsmith.
Yeah.
It'll be the new version of that.
It will end up with the tagline of "seconds of fun for all the family."
Yeah, quite. Mike in the chat room says a live play Vocaloid guitar only available in Japan. I reckon this is probably going to go down very well with the Japanese market, more than it would outside, because it has that kind of kitschy kind of quality. But I don't know. I was some of the demos I've heard. Apparently Ben Jordan's done one, and I haven't seen it, but I want to see that because Ben Jordan does some really, really cool stuff. So I'd like to see what
I actually watched Ben's video this morning on it.
Oh yeah,
and Ben does great videos.
Yeah,
I love his stuff. But
yeah,
his
video on the Polybrute was what sold me on the Polybrute. I knew when I saw that I had to have it. So he's really good. Yeah, I will watch this and we'll see how we go. But there you go. That's the Casio, and let's get it right again. The CT-S1000V. Trips off the tongue, that one, doesn't it?
I used to have a CT-1000P.
Right.
Well, I've still got it, actually.
What's the P for?
The smell?
Programmable, it was.
Programmable.
Oh.
Ooh. Yes.
Still got that.
The only Casio I want back is my Casio M321. I remember that distinctly. M321 digital watch from 1981 or 2. And it was a silver case, a stainless steel case, and it had a bass guitar, like a Fender jazz style kind of bass guitar on the top.
Yeah.
And frets, and it had a different musical alarm for each day of the week. And there was it would play Happy Birthday to you on your birthday. There was the Wedding March was on there as well, and there was Jingle Bells that would play on Christmas Day. And it was great, and I missed that watch terribly, and I look for them online, and every time I see them on eBay, they go for stupid money. They're more than one of these things. So yeah, it's crazy. Actually, I found a website the other day that allows you to you've got a whole bunch of different Apple Watch faces, and they've got Casio ones on there, so I'm thinking about downloading one of those and making my wrist look a bit like it was in 1981. Anyway, there we go.
This should be a plug-in for Logic.
Well, quite, yeah. So there you go. This is the Casio CT-S1000V, CasioMusicGear.com if you want more information on that. Right, let's get in and talk to our guest, Glen. Let's start off by asking you where it all started for you. Not just in the industry in terms of your career, but how did you get into music technology in the first place? Where was the seed first sown?
Karen Wingreen.
Okay.
Her name is now Tyler Brown, but yeah, Karen. She did it. I was a sax player. I grew up playing saxophone. I still do. Got a couple of them down here. Mm-hmm. And went to Berklee College of Music for a summer semester between my 11th and 12th grade of high school. Mm-hmm. And they made you learn how to play chords and, writing music and stuff. And as a sax player, you play one note, and now all of a sudden I had to write multiple notes. So I learned how to form the claw and move triads up and down.
Okay.
So all of a sudden I could play keyboards. Good enough to be in like a new wave band, which the music was coming around at that time. So this was 1979.
Cool.
And no, 78 or 79. And Karen was she was also in the school band and was singing this thing over and over again. Are we not men? We are Devo. And I was like, Karen, what are you saying? And she puts her headphones on me, and I listen to this thing. I'm like, this song's cool. Wow, there's some cool sounds. What? This thing's in 7/4. What's going on here? Having come from playing jazz all my life. And so it was really Devo's album, Are We Not Men?
Yeah,
that was the thing that got me into that. But between that and Berklee teaching me this to be able to play chords and play a keyboard.
Right, gotcha. So then what spurred you to get involved in, like the behind the scenes world of the industry itself and, manufacture of instruments?
Well, I had played in a bunch of bands from high school until about 1983. Went back to Berkeley, and I had studied synthesis with a great guy, Stan Levine. I kind of really learned on a Moog modular at Pasadena City College with him. So went to Berkeley, went into the electronic music program. At that time, they only had an ARP 2600 or two 2600 and 2500. And I had already kind of been through that in music, concrete, and tape editing, and I had a Prophet 5 and stuff. So their music tech program at that time was a little behind the curve of where things were. I think the year or two after I left, they upgraded the whole department. But so my first semester there, I was tutoring seniors and recording in the studio there on different projects. So Berkeley was kind of irrelevant to me, and I was programming and hiring my Prophet out. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to come back to Los Angeles and I'm going to be a studio synthesist. And it was right when the DX7 came out, and little cartridges and people selling sounds and all that kind of changed it. So there was no longer the synthesizer guy that gets called in just to program a synth.
Yeah.
It's like, you go buy a synth and then you buy 1,000 sounds for it. And the people will play that. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? So I was interested in synths, and since we're taking kind of a weird turn at that time, the Jupe 8 was out and the Prophet 5 and all that, and all these companies started going down. They started going, oh, let's see how many features we can take off of a synth and still call it a synthesizer. And I wanted it to go the other way.
Yeah.
So I kind of was like, yeah, I need to learn how to make synths, and I want to get involved in working in these companies. So I went did one of the electronic tech school things, and I went and got did my program through that and learned how to repair electronics.
Okay.
So it started there.
Right. So am I right in saying that the first company that you worked for in terms of music technology was 360?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So what were you doing there then?
We did a little bit of everything. It was really a small, I think there were 6 of us when I was there. So I started off just as a repair tech. I answered the job ad for repair tech. So I was doing repair, assembly line calibration and testing of products. But when the company is that small, you do everything.
Yeah.
So you help in marketing. The digital keyboard was before my time.
Right.
I had to work on a few of those things, and that's why I don't have hair today. But yeah, I mainly worked. I was there during the time of the MIDI bass and MIDI patcher. I've got kind of a rack of old 360 rack MIDI processors there. So yeah, I was doing that, and then we were doing sampling on a home-built CPM-based computer.
Okay.
So that was sampling for the MIDI bass and MIDI bass Pro, and for another product that they did called Permanent Playback, which was a thing that revolutionized audio in industrial, like in the industrial world of playback messaging.
Okay.
So I got into sampling at that point in time. We were sampling on a green screen, and it would come out this big thing of hex code, and you try to figure out what the fundamental frequency was and the frequency of the sampling rate, and you try to figure out what loop points would be based on that, and looking for zero crossings in a field of hex code.
Yeah.
So got into the sampling there, got into doing printed circuit board layouts. I laid out the PCB on a couple of the products.
Cool.
So yeah, we did a little bit of everything.
And was it from then you went to Roland?
Yeah, so at 360, when they all of a sudden started making all this money doing this permanent playback product, which was cool and fun. But it made them tons of money because places like Disneyland, Disney World bought thousands of channels of audio from them.
Yeah.
And so they could sell 3,000 MIDI basses over the course of 2 years, or they could sell 10,000 channels of audio over 6 months to every museum and theme park and airport and buses that had anything that had a played back message. They were selling this product to. So they were getting away from music, and I wanted to stay in music. So
Right.
I started looking for jobs, and Roland had an opening for a technician.
Okay. And then, so you were there, I think you said earlier, was it 7 years?
Yeah, the 7 years at Roland. My goal, again, was to design synthesizers.
And did that allow you to do that there?
And yeah, getting into Roland, it was clear after a little while that that was never going to happen.
Right.
All of this, Roland US was a distributor, basically. And so we could talk to the engineers and say, hey, we suggest this, or we'd like to build this, or like we do this, but then they had the final say, and they could pick and choose what they did or did not want to do.
Right.
So there was, guys like Eric Persing, he had some sway on stuff, but there really wasn't anybody else in the U.S. Later on, Chris Meyer was there, and Chris was working for the Pro Audio stuff, and he had a lot of and Roland R&D, so he had some say in stuff too. But
Okay.
that all came a little later. So I was a repair tech for 4 years, and then transferred into the Pro Audio department for 3 years, and I was doing everything from product support to finding bugs and reporting them to I was the technical support manager or the technical product manager. So did everything from laying out trade show booths and graphics. And again, we were a small team within a big company. So
Yeah.
we did a little bit of everything. So,
But all the time you're wanting to design synthesizers. So when did you actually get to do that?
not until 2005. So I left Roland in 95. And between 95 and 2005, I'd done sampling CD-ROMs. I'd gotten into post-production. I was doing a lot of sound design for cartoons.
Okay.
Because I knew how to use Photoshop from my days in Roland Pro Audio of doing trade show stuff. In an animation house, they're like, oh, can you fix this one frame animation? They painted the character blue instead of orange.
Okay.
Oh, can you fix these two? Can you fix these 3 seconds of footage? And so I kind of, with Chris Meyer's help, got into After Effects at that point in time, and then into video editing. So I was video editing for surf videos and skateboard companies and TV show and stuff up until 2005. And a good friend of mine from Roland had gone into Alesis, and he was the product manager there, a guy named Jim Norman. Jim is one of those guys that nobody knows about outside of our industry. Jim really set the course for a lot of the later Alesis stuff, and he was really the guy that, part of the big part of this job is not knowing what you want to put on a product. It's knowing how to get it done and knowing what dealers want and what the real customer market is. The customer market is not a forum group. So he taught me a lot more of the real mechanics of what it takes to build a product. But he got me hired in. Akai needed somebody to head up its direction, and he suggested me. And
Cool.
And they foolishly chose to hire me. So.
But during your time at what is kind of Akai and Alesis, because they kind of they're all part of Jack O'Donnell's company, which eventually, I don't think it was called In Music at the time, but it's now called In Music. There was a lot of I remember back in the day, there was a lot of kind of cross-pollination between Akai hardware and Alesis hardware, and it seemed like there was this, concerted effort to make both brands, really kind of stand out. But, rationalize around a whole set of hardware and software. So the Fusion, which we'll come to that in just a moment, because I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Fusion. But the Fusion shared some of its stuff with the MPC 5000, the virtual analog engine, and there were other, was it the Miniac?
Yeah.
And then there was the Alesis Ion and Micron that was sharing things with. So there was lots of things kind of bouncing around between the two brands. So that must have been quite an interesting time, to work in that company.
Yeah, the company was started as Newmark.
Yeah.
And Newmark really got its start by basically taking Chinese DJ mixers and CD players and rebranding.
Yeah.
So it started off as a rebranding business that took off. And so there was kind of that mentality in the upper management of anything we can rebrand, let's change the paint color, put a name on it, and ship it and sell it.
Right.
And it was a viable thing at that time, and it's been done, and it's still being done in to this day. There's a few companies that make a lot of products that end up getting rebranded by other people. But one reality of designing products is that you can't just go, here, I want to build something, and then develop the IP for it. That's really expensive. And if you spend a year developing a new, CPU platform for something, you've got to be able to do something else with it. So you can't be short-sighted and just say, here, this platform is going to do this one thing. If it turns out to be a hit product, great. But if not, you've just spent a whole lot of money. You've gone down a path that dead ends, and that's a way that companies go out of business. So, like with we'll go to the Fusion. The Fusion was pretty much a market failure. It was a synth that did a little bit of everything. It had a physical modeling engine, a very good FM engine, a virtual analog, sampling, a hard disk recorder. It had a little bit of everything. And poor Jim Norman, he kind of inherited that project when he got hired in when he left Roland. And so he actually multiple times tried to kill the project, but they had spent so much money on it that they were like, no, we've got to keep on going and build this out. And it was just a project of the Fusion didn't really know what it wanted to be.
Yeah.
And it was over-spec'd. People put every feature they could think of into the product, but without really an idea of who this was for, how they're going to access it. And so the UI wasn't really elegant.
Oh, it's horrible, yeah.
It was very... for the amount of computer power that we had, they were trying hard to do a lot of great things, but it just, you showed the picture of it. You kind of look at it and you're kind of like, well, who is this for? There's a bunch of buttons, and the buttons say, brass and strings and piano and keys and percussion. But then you've got this display and this kind of weird, like Sultan's hat shaped encoder knob. It was kind of we used to call it the Homer car. So there was an episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson gets to build his dream car.
Yes.
And it's like, a garbage truck with a glass dome and fins. And it was kind of the Homer car, and that's kind of what we called it. Of people got to put everything they wanted into it, and it didn't really come out right.
Yeah.
So they had spent a whole lot of money on this engine and a lot of development. And my first day at the company, they go, we have this engine. We need a new MPC. You need to build an MPC. And this was like my first day. They had this big meeting room with 50 people in it. And those were my marching orders. So me and the director of engineering, this guy, Alex, the two of us after the meeting went into my office and go, okay, so what do we do? And I wasn't really MPC literate at the time, so it turned into, a huge history and research project for me of why people were doing what they were doing, and it was a great education experience. But then so we tried to take what they had, and they were like, well, it has a sequencer, so just take that sequencer and call it an MPC. It's like, well, you can't do that.
No.
So we did our best to try to keep the integrity of what the MPC was and what it did and why it did it, and add some new things into it. But when your job is to build a new MPC, that's a difficult project because it's got so much legacy and so much history that no matter what you do, it's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
You're going to get the guys that are, the MPC 60 was the right one. And other guys, no, it was the 3000 because Dre used the 3. No, it's not that. It's the 2000 XL because Kanye did this. And so no matter which, and each one of them were very different.
Yeah.
And then there was the 4000, which was a total left turn.
Yeah.
And so you can't turn it into an MPC Homer car and do everything that they all did. So you kind of have to pick a path and go with it. And we did. And then, I've still got mine and I still use it. There's some things that it did that sits right up here. There's some things that it does in just ways that it works that I really like it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that plus what we wanted to do then became the MPC Renaissance. And now where they're taking it.
Yeah, So what do you think of where Akai, because Alesis seem to have dropped off. Yeah, I think they learned their lesson with the Fusion. There's mine still down there. Look, I rarely turn it on. Sometimes I just turn it on just to remember what it could do, and then I go, yeah, okay. But it's the MPC line has gone on from strength to strength. Alesis seem to have just concentrated now on the drums, which are very good. I have a Crimson kit downstairs, packed away at the moment, unfortunately. But those mesh heads are really, really cool. But they seem to have focused on just like controllers, keyboard controllers, and drums. Whereas Akai now, they had that kind of rough patch, and now have just to use the phrase, they've had a renaissance of sorts, and they're just really knocking it out of the park now. So now that you're removed from that, are you like really pleased to see what they're doing now as opposed to what they back then?
Yeah, the new MPCs are really cool. I was thinking about getting one of them myself. I like the battery powered, and there's things that I like about making beats on an MPC that nothing else really does.
Yeah.
The Force looks very cool. I know Corey over at ModBap and Ken have used them a bunch, and they really like the Force. I haven't put any hands on it yet, but yeah, I like what they're doing. I brought in the MPK keyboard controller line at a time when the market was kind of saturated.
Yeah.
But I said, no, we can do this, and we just have to do it a little differently. And that was a fight because of the Fusion. The owner, Jack, didn't ever want to see another keyboard in his life again.
Yeah,
so it took me about a year and a half of, no, we got to do this. No, we got to do this.
Yeah. Well, I've got testament now. I've got two MPKs here. I've got 49 that I think I got as payment for some work, and then I went out and got my son an MPK 88, and he loves it. It's great. It's solid. I mean, they're built like tanks. They're great controllers.
Yeah, if you remember at that time, it was pretty much all. Emu had some, and M-Audio was kind of the king at that time.
Yes, yeah.
There was a lot of cheap controllers, ones that just, they were $199 and they meant to be that.
Yeah.
Novation was doing some nice ones, but they were a little convoluted back at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just wanted to do something that was a little bit more straightforward, laid out, built well with good components, and it ended up taking off. And so that kind of launched the whole controller line. MPK Mini is still on the market. They've done some little tweaks to it over the years, but MPK Mini was one of the best selling keyboard controller. It probably is the best-selling keyboard controller of all time now.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Yeah. I've got a couple of them laying around in here somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm proud about the stuff that we did there, and I love seeing the stuff that they're doing now. Dan Gill, he was my project manager, and when I left, he came into product manager. Dan's really great. He's a synth head. He knows his stuff. Pete Goodliff over there in the UK is a software guy heading up all the software for the MPC, and I love Pete. Pete's great. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So Akai Alesis, you then moved on. Did you go straight to Arturia after that?
Yeah. So we were about halfway through the Renaissance, and I had been doing some sound design work for Arturia going back to when I was doing post-production.
Okay.
I did sound design for them on the CS80 and the Jupiter 8 and the Mini Moog V. And, and they were always, their booth was always next to ours at NAMM.
Right, yeah.
So I got to know the owner of the company, and we would have lunch at NAMM, and we got to talking a bit. So there was actually one point in time where they had closed down the California business that was Akai and Alesis. They closed the California office. They retained me. Some of the people moved over there. But I was a contractor for about a year.
Okay.
So during that time, I didn't have an exclusive. So I had come up with an idea for a little non-programmable analog monophonic synth. And they didn't want it. And so in one of my meetings with Arturia, I said, hey, you guys should really consider about doing this. You've done the origin. You've done some things, but there's an opportunity right now for an analog monosynth that nobody's really going after. And so I laid it out, and I showed them some ideas. And then they opened up a business again at InMusic, and all of a sudden I became an employee again. So it was like, oh, I can't do any more with you guys. Sorry. So I had to walk away for about a year and a half. And then, I went into Arturia, and right when I came in, they had already designed most of the Mini Brute. In fact, almost all of it by that time, I think. And that was really Yves and Bruno Pillay. And Bruno's the head of analog design for Arturia. He's a great engineer.
Yeah. So of your time at Arturia, you oversaw, again, a kind of, not a renaissance, but certainly, a rising of their star to become, what they are today, this, real driving force in both software and now, of course, hardware. I mean, what were you most proud of at your time at Arturia?
I think, being the genesis of the Mini Brute, because it kind of, there were companies that were doing analog, but not mainstream companies. Like Studio Electronics have been doing it for years. And Korg had a couple little like funky boxes for, $100 or something. But to see the used market going crazy and nobody making a keyboard monophonic analog synth, 100% analog, nobody was doing that. And there was one of the largest dealers in the US where we showed them the idea, and they said, no, nobody wants that. Nobody wants a non-programmable monophonic analog synth. Nobody wants that. And luckily, the owner of Arturia is a pretty bold guy, and he didn't listen to him. And he was like, "Yeah, I think we're going to try this anyway." So we did it, and it succeeded.
Yeah.
And that kind of then opened the doors, I think, for other companies to come in and do it and be able to hit the large stores, because all of a sudden these large stores were like, oh, wait, this thing's selling. Oh, we'll take a bunch of them. And then they sold a bunch of them. So,
yeah, cool.
Moog had been doing stuff, but at that time they were really expensive. The Voyager and things like that. And Novation had done some, some of the rack, what was it, the base station?
Yeah, base station and A station, wasn't there? some cool stuff there.
So probably that. That's probably the proud moment for me was that, and maybe BeatStep Pro.
Okay, yeah, that's a cool device. So let's skip ahead a little bit. End of Arturia. All of a sudden, you're working for this company that nobody's ever heard of, and you're about to release a synthesizer that quite literally has just blown everything else out of the water. I mean, I don't think I'm being too exaggerating here. That it really has just completely shook up the hardware synthesizer market. Not only just for the way it sounds and the way that you can interact with it as a user, but also, polyphonic aftertouch is always the big thing. So I'm going to kind of ask the first question here about Ashun sound machines and the HydraSynth, and then I shall defer to Ben and Kent to a few questions, because they are more in tune with that. Did you see what I did there? In tune. In tune with that instrument. So tell us, how did that whole thing come about? Where did Ashun sound machines come from? How did you get involved? And how did the HydraSynth get born?
So it goes back to a NAMM show where there's certain contract manufacturers that all companies use.
Yeah.
So there's about 3 or 4 really good ones over in China that build, I'd say, 90% of the products on the market. And even the companies that say that they're all built in the USA, they're sourcing a lot of their chassis and keyboards and stuff like that from these other companies.
Right.
So we had one manufacturer that we were working with, and at Arturia, I didn't like having all of our products at one manufacturer. If something happens, one, the manufacturer can wield a lot of power over you, and 2, if something happens to them, you're out. Your whole product line's gone. So I was looking at this other company that makes good products, Medley, and so I had a meeting with them, and it was a meeting with the owner and a couple of the top people there. And during the meeting, I showed them some of the products we wanted to build, and they were like, yeah, we can't do those because of agreements that we have with other companies, so we're not going to go down that path, which is unique, because most of these companies would say, yeah, we'll do it, but you just can't tell them that we're doing it or something. So that was a unique thing. Then one of them said to me, it says, oh, we're considering making synthesizers, and we're looking for somebody to head this up. Do you know anybody? And they weren't asking me. They were asking if I really knew somebody. And I said, well, talk to me about it. What are you guys doing? And they kind of said what their broad goal was. And I said, well, I'd be interested in this, so let's talk. So that was in a January NAMM show. We talked for 10 months. And I had a good thing at Arturia. There were some issues in some different places, but I had a great team of people there. The engineers are great. My right-hand guy is Sebastian, who's kind of now the head guy there. Seb's awesome. I love it. I can't wait to see some of Seb's products. But it was like, yeah, it's time for me to make a change here. So after getting to know them, I'll go back. I didn't need to change, but I said, if I'm going to make a change in careers, it's going to be one or two things. I'm either going to find somebody I really want to work for and who sees my vision for things, or I'm going to just go and do stuff myself. And doing stuff myself meant I was going to make like weird spring reverbs and other little oddball stuff that I could design and build myself. And I really connected with the owner of Medley. She's a wonderful person. I met with all the upper management. They're all great people. They care about their employees. The employees are taken care of. I went to a Music China trade show for Arturia, and I met with with the owner again, and then the head of engineering, and then I went and visited their office, the R&D office in Shanghai, and I was just really impressed by it all. And so I said, yeah, let's do this. Let's make this happen.
Cool.
And they had already started building a synth. They had Dominic. Dominic had been working there for a while, and he came out of a distributor or Novation Hong Kong.
Okay.
So Dominic's got a great background, and he's a gearhead as well. So they kind of started down a path, and I kind of looked at it and said, yeah, you got some good stuff here, but we need to change kind of the whole philosophy of what it was going to be and what it ended up becoming. And it became that.
Yeah. And you came up with this thing, which has literally just blown everything else out of the water. It's it won it did win our hardware synth of the year, didn't it, Ben?
Yeah. I know the HydraSynth itself didn't come out this year, but we've had the
we made an exception because of the Deluxe and the Explorer.
Yeah.
So it won, and obviously I didn't have any kind of anything to base that on. It was all these guys. So Ben, Ken, have you got any questions about the HydraSynth you want to ask Glenn? Or anything that's come up in the chat, even?
There's been quite a few things in the chat. I don't want to.
I can see the chat, but I can't respond to anything. So
Yeah.
So people don't think I'm ignoring you, but I just type into it. So.
Yeah, but I'm interested in like the Ashun sound machines give you like an overview of what they want to achieve, and you want to be involved in that straight away, and your first product is the HydraSynth. What is the what does this overall vision involve for us? Are we going to have like Hydra drums and all kinds of stuff, or
no? I mean, the vision was not product specific. It was more philosophy of doing business and a philosophy of, she said to me, this is Fanny, who's the owner of Medley. She said, it's going to sound corny, but we really believe that people making music makes their lives better. And she says, it sounds like a corny tagline on a web page or something, but she's like, but we really believe this. And she's like, I think that, if we build a really great product and it sounds great and it's built well, and if we can do good support on the thing, she's like, we want something we can be proud of. Yeah. And, they've been building, there's some amazing products that they've built for other companies, and they wanted to do something of their own, and so they put the team into it. And one of my favorite things is she's like, I don't know anything about products, but I get ideas about stuff, but if they're stupid, tell me, oh, that's a stupid idea. and I've worked for a lot of other owners of companies that don't know anything about the products, and they say, I have an idea for this, do it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we've got all the freedom. Her and the controller, which is our cousin, he said the same thing to me. He's like, I know about finances. I know about how to run a company. I don't know anything about products, so don't tell me about it. Just tell me this is how much it's going to cost, and this is how much we're going to make.
Cool. That's all you need, isn't it?
And actually, with ASM, we don't. When they made me CEO, they said, "Okay, so here's your marching orders for the brand," and none of the orders are profit.
Right.
Which is strange, because the last two companies I worked for, every year you'd have a meeting. They go, okay, this year we want 10% growth. This year we want 15% growth.
Yeah.
And so it was all a growth base, whereas ASM's more product base. Okay. And, the owner and the general manager are both big believers in, if you make a product that sounds good, it's easy to use, that has unique features, and it's built well, and you can offer good support, then the sales are going to come. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to focus on that, we're going to focus on all the tools that you need to do all the other things. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I say when there's a direction and a philosophy. That was what really sold me on the company. It was the people and their vision for how you run a music business.
Yeah. It's definitely from like just like looking in, you know, you see people on social media all the time in the studios, and there always seems to be a HydraSynth lately, like in some form. There might be the desktop version. If you look around a lot of studios, you will see a HydraSynth, and to me that says it's a massive success. And with the release of the Deluxe and the Explorer, that suggests that as well. But how does the actual sales of it compare to the estimations and what they wanted to achieve? Has it gone way beyond? Or?
Yeah, it's gone beyond what the original estimations were. I mean, based on, I've got a lot of sales data over a lot of years, so I know how many of different types of products and categories. I know how many units sell within a lot of these categories. That information's pretty easy to get. It used to be even easier to get, but so I know what some of the other top synths have sold, and we've outsold a bunch of them. Now, again, when you're selling synthesizers, you're not selling millions of products. You're not selling hundreds of thousands of products. You are if it's a DX7 or if it's an M1. But there's just really not that. Those sold in those quantities for a very different reason than being synthesizers.
Do you feel an enormous amount of pressure now that the HydraSynth has, when it landed, it was massive, and then the desktop version came out and it became even more popular, and then this year, back end of last year, you announced the two new versions, which, one expanded upon the whole thing, and the other one, kind of shrunk it, but made it a more portable thing. Now you have there's a HydraSynth for everyone. Do you feel an enormous amount of pressure that the next thing that you do, whatever that might be, you've got a heck of a thing to kind of go up against? But I mean, I know you said that the company isn't really interested in profits at all, but certainly, you're going to be judged on the success, of the HydraSynth. And do you feel pressure?
Well, I mean, we can't be a money losing venture, so we've got to make money. So we're making money, and that's a good thing. Again, the philosophy is one of, you build good products, then you'll make money. So is there pressure? Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's like anytime you have a hit product, when we did the APC 40, it was like, okay, Akai, you've got a hit product. Now, what are you going to do for me today? Yeah, that was yesterday. What are you doing for me today? And you could say same thing with the MPKs. You could say the same thing with, the Mini Brute, Micro Brute, Beat Step Pro, Key Step. When you get done with the product, it's like, okay, so what's next? We've got some things that are coming up next. I don't think they're going to sell as much as the HydraSynth, and I've stated that. I think that the HydraSynth is a unique product in the marketplace, and I think that it will kind of have its place in the history of products. That it's going to be hard to match that, and so none of the expectations are ever that, oh, you've had this great hit, now you're going to have another great hit afterwards. It's like, you might, but you might not too. So.
But I guess the success of the HydraSynth, anything, whatever it is that you do next, is already going to have momentum, because it's the next thing that Ashun sound machines do. And hey, the last thing they did was an absolute storming success. So that's going to, it's going to give you that momentum, I'm sure.
Yeah, it helps to build a brand name, because when you're a new brand and you go into music retailers, they're like, well, especially the big ones, they're like, look, we don't want just to buy a product. We want to we want to see what's the future. So we want to see what you guys are about and where you're going to go, where you're going to take this. We don't want to just sell this one product. And especially the dealers that we've chosen, we kind of handpicked. We didn't open up every dealer that wanted to be a dealer. We kind of picked some that we knew would take care of people well.
Okay.
Sweetwater, Perfect Circuit, Musical Fulfillment, Washington Music. We kind of picked distributors that we knew around the world that take care of people. I had worked with Source in the UK there with Arturia. Mylar Melodies was he was their product specialist there.
Yeah,
they're great guys. They do a really good job. So we kind of picked that network out. But to get into those, you kind of have to have a plan. You got to be more than just, hey, I've made a good box. You want to sell this box? That doesn't go over, and that won't lead you to success. So you've got to have kind of a roadmap of what you want to do.
Sure. I know Kent's got a very burning question that he wants to ask you, so I'm going to pass the mic over to him. So yeah, go ahead, Kent.
No, I'm not allowed to ask that question.
Go on.
No, I've already pissed Ken off with it.
You can ask me, and I can just ignore you if I want.
Good. That's all right. Can you right? Standard support, right? Where's my HydraSynth? Where's my deluxe, man?
It's probably sitting on a ship or in.
Is it in the Indian Ocean still? Something like that, isn't it?
Well, hopefully it's not in the ocean. It's on a boat. It's in the ocean.
Yeah.
No, I
mean there's a beach that I go surfing at down south of us here, Bolsa Chica, and it's just south of the Los Angeles harbor. And normally, in years past, you go to Bolsa Chica and you look out, and 26 miles across the ocean, you can see Catalina Island, and it's beautiful. And now you look out there, and it's just ships parked.
Yeah.
Just, I counted 31, I think, the last time I was there. And that was south of the harbor. That wasn't including what's in the harbor.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's stuff that we get dates on things, and it's like, well, it's on a ship, and the ship is here, and it's in harbor, but it might be 3 weeks, it might be 4 weeks before it gets unloaded to then go through the process of get through customs, get to our distribution center, get on trucks and trains, and get shipped out to the dealer. So the logistics is a huge thing. And on the back end logistics, it's the same thing in China now. So to get your product onto a ship, it's like it used to be like, okay, yeah, you can get your stuff on next week. And now it's like, oh yeah, next month we can get your stuff on a ship.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole supply chain on both ends of it is just jacked right now. And there's things that we're like, yeah, we want customers to have them. We really don't want customers to not have them.
Yeah.
We don't want dealers to have back orders and not be able to fill them.
Yeah. There was a question from...
There's stuff that we have no prediction. We can't even begin to predict on it.
No. Jason Crouch asked a question, which I think you've kind of answered, but it says how ASM basically managing to do stuff like launch new versions of the HydraSynth range with things like the chip shortage issues and the supply delay issues. I mean, obviously you launched these two products towards the end of or sort of the second half of 2021 when we're in the midst of all of this stuff. How much is that playing into your plans, and how much did that affect things?
It affected us and everybody else. One of the big things that nobody talked about was the company AKM had a fire in their factory.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And AKM makes, if you've got a really high quality A to D or D to A, like the system I'm using right now, the Arturia 8 Pre's and the Audio Fuse and the Apogees and the UAs and you can go down the list of people that used the AKM A to D and D to A's. And we used one, but we used it in a non-mission critical thing. It was on the CV gate. So for us, it was pretty easy to redesign for a new A to D and D to A. For audio interface companies, I don't know what they're doing. Their prices are probably going to be going through the roof because AKM had the the combination of a good price and great quality. And now to get that same quality, you have to pay a whole lot more. So we dealt with that. And then right after that, one of the other CPUs, we use a standard STM processor that a lot of people use for any kind of control systems. We use that for the front panel control and MIDI I/O and all that kind of stuff. Well, our lead times went from 3 weeks to 12 months, maybe. A 12-month maybe. And that 12-month maybe is, so when General Motors comes in and says that they're going to buy, 100,000 of them, and you guys have an order for 5,000 of them, we're not going to ship yours. We're going to ship theirs. So we found an STM compatible CPU that we could source better, and we redesigned all of our products to use that new CPU. It was big. Now we're at a point when we did that we designed the board so that we can drop either processor. It could support one processor or the other.
Right.
That was one of the delays in the Deluxe and Explorer, was to keep the other shipping. We had to redesign the motherboards and redo the firmware. So that was a 4-month left turn that we had to take.
Wow. That's
got quite a few people asking in the chat about, and Sasquatch asked this question originally early on. And I was a bit gutted, really, because it was kind of my question that I wanted to ask. But now Wilderness Music has asked a similar kind of thing as well. And it's just basically, would ASM be considering at any point making a controller only? Like a MIDI controller with the polyphonic aftertouch and the ribbon and... That it seems as though a lot of people would like that, because 76 note poly aftertouch keyboard controller would be fantastic, and you could even like integrate the desktop module into it as well. Like kind of, like you could set it up with that and control a bank of them. You could have like 25 of the desktop things and a way of selecting each one on the controller. I'd go for that as well. I'm getting a bit carried away now.
Yes. But I mean, a lot of people asked about controllers.
I mean, I've made controllers in my history. I did key steps and key labs and MPKs, but we're not going to talk about anything that we haven't announced. Of course. And that's part of my philosophy on the thing, is like, I don't like teasers. I don't think that customers like teasers. I don't need to announce something that isn't or may not happen. There's one company who loves to do that, who I got woken up with this morning with a message saying that they tried to register one of our trademarks, and luckily failed at it. But we don't. I don't like the teaser thing, and I don't like announcing what we will do, even with updates, because there's a lot of times you want to do an update, and it's like, we really want to do this, and then you get down the development road and you go, oh crap, we can't do this for whatever reason, and you've just told all these customers, we're going to do this version that's going to do, and then all of a sudden you can't. Now you're the jerk, and so I'd rather just not ever say anything about anything. And when we announce it, that's when it's really going to be something. And I don't want to announce vaporware. Luckily, I get the say in all that kind of stuff. So you won't see teaser videos from us. You're not going to see vaporware announcements on things. And we'll talk about stuff when there's something to talk about.
And I guess in the current situation that we have now, it would be super foolish to kind of say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, because you just don't know what the supply issues are going to be.
I'd say, we made the mistake of giving shipping dates because it looked like we were going to have Deluxes and Explorers at the end of November. And, they were in production in October, but the whole shipping supply chain changed all that on us. And it changed it in a way that people are like, well, where is it? And it's like, we can't give you it. We're not going to even like postulate on when the dates might be, because it's a coin flip at this point in time. So I'd rather go radio silence on that kind of stuff rather than put something out there that either gets taken as fact or gets misinterpreted or is just wrong.
Yeah, sensible.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was an interesting question from Andrew Brooks, which I'm just going to throw up onto the screen. Is the programming system on the HydraSynth deliberately inspired by the old Ensoniq synths?
That is so funny because we've been asked that a bunch of times.
Huh?
And there were people who brought it up at the first KnobCon. And the answer is no. I'd seen the ESQ. I've got an ESQ M down here.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at it, there's no button layout like that. There's a 10 keypad on it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that inspired it was this.
Right.
So you've got your button for VCO1, a button for VCO2, a button for VCF, and VCA, a button for envelope. And where it fails is you've got a button for envelope X, so it's button envelope 1, envelope 3, LFO 4. And so we wanted to try to get things down from, instead of a 2-button press, down to a 1. Dominic's also an Xpander guy. He's also got an Xpander as well.
Okay.
So the user interface was really taking what was a good user interface and trying to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions from the pool there, Ben?
What was it?
Ken Lewis says we need the current ship count. If you get Surfline, they have cameras, and you check the Bolsa Chica and the and the Seal Beach cam, and you can see the ships offshore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That'd be worse.
A question from Synth Addict. He said he loves the HydraSynth 49, but he was a bit disappointed to find the release velocity missing, which is an MPE standard, right? Was it a tech issue or cost issue? The new HydraSynth unit
Hardware,
fix
isn't it?
this.
Is MPE a standard?
Quite.
No, release velocity is it's in the hardware. So yeah, the original hardware was baked without it. So that was something that we wanted to add, and when we redesigned the hardware for the new ones, we were able to add it in. So yeah, it's a hardware limitation. It's not a firmware thing, so we can't add it onto the 49.
Can you, if you had an Explorer or Deluxe, which has the release velocity, does the 49 receive it over MIDI?
Yep.
Will it? So it will. So there is a kind of a workaround, but yeah, cool.
Yeah, and MPE is one of those things that, again, it's the standard without a standard.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of implemented it in their own way, and that's one of the failings, I'll say, of MIDI, is that MIDI gets controlled by a couple of companies, and if they say yes, it lives, and if they say no, it dies. And so you get things like the Huey protocol and the Mackie control protocol and MPE and all the other weird things that have come out over the years as people kind of hacking onto what they wanted MIDI to do.
Yeah.
And now there's the new MIDI, but there's some things about the new MIDI 2.0 that I'm just, I don't understand why it was done that way. But
so one of the big selling points, talking points, features of the HydraSynth is the polyphonic aftertouch keyboard, which I think has caused, I think right up until HydraSynth came out, people, myself included, were saying, why have companies seem to have forgotten or abandoned polyphonic aftertouch, seeing as it was used on so many of the great classics, the CS80, the DX1, and a few others as well. And it was this wonderful thing of polyphonic aftertouch. And I'm guessing that a lot of it was down to price, and that it was probably expensive to implement. So how did Ashun Sound Machines say, we want this and we've got it, and we're now putting it in a mass-produced synthesizer, and not only are we doing it on regular keyboards, we're doing it with MIDI-sized keys as well on the Explorer, because that's, to have a semi-weighted polyphonic aftertouch keyboard in that form factor, I don't think has ever been done before. It's always been full-size keys. So, tell us a bit about the polyphonic aftertouch and how that was, built into the original specifications, and how you managed to now mass produce this, where everyone else seems to have kind of either failed or ignored it.
Well, Poly Aftertouch for me goes back to right here, the Prophet T8.
Sure.
And when you play the thing, it's just, again, it's like the first patch that loads up on the HydraSynth. It's the most boring patch ever. It's a sawtooth wave going through a filter, going through a VCA, a single saw. But when you add Poly Aftertouch, all of a sudden it becomes this expressive thing. And for me, being a wind player and coming from playing EWIs and stuff, you do the same thing. You take a simple, boring sound, but now all of a sudden when you add this expression to it, the sound, it becomes musical. And it's not just, bah, type of thing. It's something that becomes musical.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to get Poly Aftertouch since I was at Akai. And at Akai and all the companies really, they rely on these other companies that make keybeds. So whether it's Fatar or whether it's, there's a few others, companies in China that people build from. Whether it's any of them, they don't make it. And so I pushed all of them for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years to go, hey, can we get Poly Aftertouch again? Can we? And one of the companies that was like, hey, you guys used to do it. Can we just do that again? I like it on my products. And they were all like, yeah, no, we can't do that anymore. It's difficult technology. We just can't do it. So one of the things when I got hired at Medley is Medley makes their own keybeds. They're one of the suppliers of keybeds that many other companies use. People would be surprised to find what products have a Medley keybed in it. And so they have the ability to do all that tooling. The tooling for making a keybed is very expensive. You're looking, minimum of $300,000, and going up from there. So if you do a tooling and you don't get it right the first time, well, you can try to modify that tool or you start over again. So a thing that has feel, everybody has their idea of what the right feel is. So it gets very expensive. It's a really risky project to undertake, but it wasn't for Medley because they've made keyboards for 20 years plus. So that was the thing. It was just a scale of, I'm with a company that can actually do this now, and not having to rely on a third party. Yeah. So, there's a bunch of great synth companies out there, but none of them are big enough or have the money to go and make their own tooling.
So, I mean, obviously the polyphonic aftertouch has been a massive selling point, as well as the sound engine. Was there always a plan to bring out the bitimbral, deluxe version and the more portable Explorer version, or did they come about as a result of the fact, hey, look, we're onto a winner here, let's see if we can get this into more people's hands?
Yeah, I mean, they came about because, one, we had success. So when you have success, you are making money, and now when you're making money, you can now do some other things with it. We did the 49 because that's the sweet spot in the industry. It's also a good balancing point between cost and size and weight and shipping and all the other things. So when you go into a 61, there's a lot of people whose studios don't fit a 61, even though it makes sense. But then the structure has to get heavier, and chassis, people always talk about, oh, this company or that company went cheap with the A to Ds. That's not where your expense is. Your expense is not in A to Ds and D to As and that kind of thing. That's cheap. What's expensive is chassis, knobs, displays. That stuff's expensive. So even adding a little bit, even though the metal isn't much, working it and the failure rates that you get with it and all that kind of stuff becomes a bigger scale. So we did the 49. But it's been successful. But if you go back to a video that I did back at the first KnobCon, and somebody asked me, what I wanted to do, I said, well, if it was my choice, I'd do a 73. because again, my Prophet T8.
Yeah.
And on the backside that you can't see is my Rode 73. To me, that's the size that I like on a synthesizer. So I was able to do that. I don't often build products that I want and that I want to do. That's not the job. The job isn't to build your pet project. The job is to build projects that will sell and that will move the company forward. But in this case, I got to build my product. And then again, going downscale, I wanted to have one that we could do battery powered, do portable. We did the desktop for musicians that don't really play keys, but I thought, it'd be nice to be able to get more people. I keep hearing about beginners, like first-time beginners buying HydraSynths. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to get products that are more into the price range that beginners can delve into and still have the engine. That was one of my things with the Microbrute. Mm-hmm. Right up there somewhere. Yeah. Is I really wanted to build a synth for people to learn and get into synthesis. It goes back to the free plug-in thing that Ken said, is want to get people addicted to synthesizers. So
yeah, absolutely.
So
Gateway drug.
That's my goal. I'm a pusher.
You're a pusher. Yeah.
Saying a beginner starting with a HydraSynth. Imagine that your first experience of synthesis was with Poly Aftertouch. Because that was one when you've just got to go back down to like normal mono aftertouch, or even worse, no aftertouch, or not even velocity sensitive.
Because that's still a thing, isn't it? Keyboards without aftertouch, and yet here we are with a company that's doing it.
But that was the thing that when I got my HydraSynth, that was the thing that struck me about it, was how much of an instrument it is. It was just like, wow, and that's why I asked about the controller, really, because that was what really got me, was the way that you could interact with it and the amount of expression that you could get out of it. It was like, it blew everything else that I've got out the water.
Well, it's like you just said here, like, I'm very happy they made a 19-inch kind of rack-mountable version, but the keyboard is so hard to ignore with this particular synthesizer because it's such a part of it, isn't it?
Actually, I ordered the desktop version at first because I didn't. If you remember, I was in a tiny studio and I didn't have the room.
That's right.
And I really wanted the HydraSynth, but I just didn't have the room even for the 49 key one. And then, like, luckily, I got this bigger room. So I changed my order straight away. And I've I'm not saying anything bad about the desktop version. It's great, but what blew me away was the expression possibilities in the keyboard. It was just amazing. Yeah. Somebody in the chat asked about the mutants, the wave mutants in the Hydra. Is the real-time audio processing DSP code, because it would make an awesome pedal or a series of pedals.
Yes, they are real-time audio processors. One of the things about them, though, is that they have to know the wave cycle to be able to operate. Right. So they can't just work like if we made HydraSynth sampler, we wouldn't have the mutants on there, because if you're loading your own thing in it, it's going to have no way to know what the wave cycle is to be able to do the process. So they're a wave cycle specific DSP function.
Cool. Was there any other questions in there?
JX3D asked, it could be a bit
contentious here.
One. Yeah, he asked that Behringer said last year that they were working with ASM to provide Poly 80 to one of Behringer's coming synths. I wonder which one that is. Is that true?
And you don't have to answer that.
I don't think that Behringer actually ever said that.
I think
that's a urban legend. Right. And
probably started by me.
And no, I mean, I'll say straight up, no, we're not working with Behringer on anything. We are licensing the Polytouch keyboard to other companies, and there's another very well-known brand that you'll probably see with a Polytouch logo on it. And there's probably going to be other brands that when they license it, part of the licensing deal is you have to put the Poly logo. So you'll know whose keyboard it is when they have the Polytouch logo on them.
Yeah, smart move. Yeah.
That's going to be great. Great for everyone.
It's not just the Poly AT though, is it? It's the actual action of the keyboard.
Yeah. It's the whole unit, because it's the whole unit. It has, we're not licensing technology. We're actually licensing the unit, and they have to build it in our factory because part of our process is that we calibrate each note. We have a machine that can do all this, that calibrates each and every note on the thing, and that's one aspect that makes it work well, is our calibration process as well.
Right, great.
There was one other question in there, Ben, about for Glenn.
At the
top there.
Glenn, which is your second favourite synth that you have developed or worked on?
I guess this is assuming that the HydraSynth is your favourite, but
be
it might not be. It might be the HydraSynth.
I reckon it is, because didn't you say that it's something that you've wanted to do for ages?
HydraSynth is my favourite for sure.
Yeah. So what's your second?
I don't know. It would be. It's going to be a strange answer, and it's going to be the Microbrute.
Okay.
Yeah,
and again, I've had more people over the years that told me that the Microbrute was the thing. One, that they were a guitar player, they were a singer, and they wanted to do some synthesis, and that was their entry point. And it was a lot of people's entry point into modular. There's a good friend of mine has a film composing business, and his writing partner told me that. He's like, yeah, I got that. And the patch bay on it, even though there's 6 holes on the thing, that was the launching point for him to then get into Eurorack and get into stuff. So I think that anytime a product inspires people, that to me is the one that I find the most rewarding. I think the APC 40 was one of those for me. There's a lot of people who over the years, I've seen stuff that they've done with it. And again, BeatStep Pro, Microbrute. Yeah, those are probably the ones. It's the ones that have inspired the most people to go out and do something, make some music.
Yeah, it's like asking who your favourite child is. It's a tough question, I bet. Synth Addicts just put a question up there that I thought might get an interesting answer. What about Glenn's favourite and least favourite synths ever of all time? I'm imagining something behind you there is probably your favourite.
Well, I'm going to have to say the HydraSynth Deluxe is my favorite of all time.
Oh, okay.
It pretty much does everything that I wanted a synth to do. Before that, if you would have asked me, I would have probably said one that I love deeply is the orange, the Microwave XT.
Okay.
I love it because I love the PPG. And PPG to me was kind of the synth that I always wanted and could never afford back in the day. So yeah, non-HydraSynth synth that's my favorite, probably the Microwave XT. Most hated, there's 2 on my list, and for different reasons. Okay. And I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this. They're going to hate me for both of these.
I'm sat here saying, please don't say DX7. Please don't say DX7.
No, I love the DX. I'm a big FM fan. I've got a DX9 back on my rack up there.
Wow.
I've got a TX7 down over here.
Nice.
I love FM synthesis.
Cool.
So, my least favorite, Juno 106.
What?
Controversial.
I hate the sound of the Juno 106.
Really?
And I don't know. First off, I don't know if it's that I hate the sound. I mean, I worked on many hundreds of them when I was at Roland, of course, doing repair and calibration on the things. But it was also what it represented at that time. And the Juno 660-106 was the ultimate thing of how many features can we strip off of this synthesizer, but still call it a synthesizer. It's not an organ. No, it's a synthesizer. And those in that time in my life, they represented a downfall of the analog synthesizer.
Right.
And the only one that was going upscale was the one behind me, the Xpander. And then after that, it was all DX7s, D50s, and all the other digital ones. So to me, and it's probably, again, goes back to the bias of my timing and my youth and what the 106 represented. And it could also be that I hate that noisy chorus that no matter what sound you put before it, and you turn that chorus on, it just sounds like. The other most hated synth that used to sit right up in here, and I finally got rid of it because I hated it so much, was the Andromeda.
Ooh. Wow, that's controversial again, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just stirring the pot here.
Yeah. Wow. Because that's like so many people's dream synth.
They didn't own one.
Yeah. That's it.
So the Andromeda, again, it was a great synth. I love the panel on it. Axel Hartman did like the final panel layout on the thing. And it's beautiful from that. But there were so many times where you'd have a sound and you'd grab a filter knob and you'd turn it and nothing would happen. Because you had so much, the way that they did the modulation inside the thing, it would be like it's just peeking out the filter. So that this cutoff knob doesn't do enough to ever unbias all the voltages that you have applied to it. So then you had to go back over to the screen, and they had these little twiddly knobs that if you barely touched them, the values would go drastic amounts. Yeah. In the user interface, they did things like some wacky things, like you could tune the filter to like exact hertz or tenths of a hertz or something. And it's like, I don't really need to dial in 4,397 hertz on my filter.
Even if you knew what it sounded like.
Yeah, I don't need to do that. I could 0 to 128 and interpolate the ranges between it. I'm good.
Closed, open. There you go.
So there was a lot of twiddly aspects to the A6 that you look at it and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous and it looks very hands-on, but the reality of when you have it is it's not very hands-on, and it's almost, like I got the Virus TI2 here, and I almost never use it because I find I keep having to go through menus and stuff, and even though it's got knobs, you turn the knobs and it's like, okay, this isn't enough to really make the sound. I can't ignore the menus and just build a sound. And the A6 was very much like that. The A6 was also like the crazy ex-girlfriend of, you turn it on in the morning and you don't know what mood it's going to be in each day. And sometimes it would play great, and sometimes two voices wouldn't work, and sometimes the effects chip didn't work, and it just,
or not turn on at all.
Yeah, it's just
lock up.
I never had a good experience with the A6. When you had it and it worked and it played, beautiful sound, gorgeous sound. Sound quality was wonderful. Just not fun to play with.
I did not expect those two.
No.
Yeah, and usually for me, it's so much of synths is the user experience. And that's where the A6 killed it for me, was the user experience isn't good. Sounds wonderful, but the user experience wasn't good.
Yeah, but I definitely get you with the 106, definitely.
Thank you, Kent.
Oh no, mate! If I had £1 for every time I had somebody phone me up and say, "Oh, I have a 106. I've just bought it on eBay, and the chorus is a bit noisy." You go, yeah, it's supposed to sound like that. Really? Yeah. Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. Oh, okay.
I've been told that I might be getting a 106 donated here. It's like it's a historically important one. I have no idea of the internal condition, but the external condition is pretty rough because it was owned by. Should we say it's owned by a band with a reputation in the early mid 80s. It's covered in all sorts of stuff, and I really don't want to go there. That's going to be interesting because I think, again, Junos, I've heard them. I think I played in a band where a guy had a 60, I think, or was it a 106? It might have been a 106, and it was all right. I quite liked it.
Did it sound like a Jupiter 8 that had been strangled?
I was too young. I was like, this was 86, 87. So I was too short in the tooth when it came to synthesizers. I didn't know much from anything around that time, really. He had a Casio CZ-5000 and a Juno, and I can't remember whether it was a 60 or a 106. I think it was a 106 now, the more I think about it. But, yeah.
This is a good question from Debris here. Could we ask Glenn to tell a bit about the process of designing the HydraSynth wavetables? How did you develop them, and what have been the criteria for selecting the final ones?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We used a bunch of different processes, actually. We have a kind of home-built additive synthesizer engine that the guys in Shanghai built. We used additive for some of them. We then actually even took samples from a lot of stuff. So I created a bunch of sounds using Arturia Synclavier V, one of my favorite software plugins, using combinations of FM and additive there. There was stuff that we resynthesized from other samples. So there's pieces of piano samples and Rhodes samples and duck call samples and all kinds of stuff that when you take them into a single cycle loop, it doesn't sound anything like what the original sound was. And so some people have asked, can you tell us what the source of some of these are, so that when I'm making a sound, I can. It's like, well, if I told you which ones were the piano ones, they'd probably be the worst ones. If you're trying to make a piano sound, they won't sound anything like a piano because of the section that we took doesn't sound like it. So yeah, it's basically about, we wanted to create a broad range of interesting harmonic spectrums. And we did a bunch of analysis we did a crazy analysis on sawtooth and square waves from vintage analogs and other things. And we found that they really had very little difference in sound, and where the real sound came was in the drive to the filters. So yeah, there was a lot of different sources and ways that we did it. We had something like 490 different single cycle waves. And then we started to go through them, and you're listening to them. And when you listen to a bunch of single cycle waves, you want to kill yourself or somebody around you. And we started doing harmonic analysis on them. And there was a bunch that looked very different. Like we would create some with wave drawing, and they would look very different, but the harmonic spectrum was almost exactly the same in multiple waveforms. So we started doing analysis and just generating these Excel charts of these two waves are almost exactly alike, and these four waves are almost exactly alike. And we go and listen to them all, and it's like, I can't hear a difference on it. It's so tiny, the amount that it's not going to matter. So that's how we kind of cut it all down to the number that we have, which is the round number of 219.
I mean, obviously the HydraSynth isn't the first synthesizer to ever use wavetables and that kind of form of synthesis, but there have been a glut of synthesizers based on that. Korg have brought out Wave State and Mod Wave, and there's the Argon 8 from Modal. What do you think of those synthesizers? Do you think they add something more to the sonic palette that's available to people? Are you kind of proud that you might have inspired some of these companies to kind of come out there with this stuff?
Well, I don't know if we inspired any of them. The reality of a product is, you're looking at a minimum of 18 months of the development cycle. So if somebody comes out with something and 6 months later you see the same type of product, it's not that they copied or that they did it. It's just that people happen to be on the same idea path at the same time, and one of them got to market sooner. So things like the Wave State, I still use my XT all the time. It sounds very different than what a HydraSynth sounds like. I think I'm an obvious person to say that there's not one synth that you need. Every synth has its own personality, and again, for me, more than what the synth sounds like is more what the user experience is. So there's different UIs that force you into different, they don't even force you, but that you tend to flow into different ways. So when you start creating a sound, and for those of us who are sound designers, and the sound design process is part of the art, it's like an artist who, I do some art stuff on the side. So, if I'm using watercolors or pencil, or you're doing linotype, block carving, or anything like that, each one of those lends itself to a different type of end result. And I think that you can say the same for UI. So whether it's a wave state or an XT or a HydraSynth or whatever, you've got to pick the instrument that works for what you want to do and how you want to do it, and the end results that you're looking for. And some things inspire people and some things don't. So
yeah, no, very true. There was one last question in the pool from Wilderness. Do you want to?
Yeah, it was just on polychaining, really. Is there a limit to, well, his question, it says, we have mentioned it, but is there a voice limit to polychaining hydras? If I were to buy an Explorer and like it, then buy a Deluxe and polychain, well, I get 24 voices.
I haven't done a Explorer to Deluxe polychain. The polychain is pretty much, I think, based on 8 voices. So the thing is that there's no way for us to know how many things you got chained. So the first thing when polychain goes on is automatically going to think, okay, I'm going to double my voice count. So if it's a HydraSynth 49 to a desktop, the 49 goes, okay, now I'm a 16 voice. Right. So it's going to play, I'm going to play 8 voices internally. And then if there's a 9th voice that comes down, it's going to the MIDI out. So there's not an intelligent way to have that first synth then go, oh, well, I've got 2 things hooked on here, for it to then know that, oh, now you're only playing 8 voices, but you're going to send out 16. So yeah, I haven't done it that way around Explorer to Deluxe, but I would think probably not, just because of the way that the system has to work. One thing that I don't get either is that people keep wanting more voices, and to me, more voices in an analog or in a polysynth, there's a point where it just doesn't matter anymore, because the sound's going to get so big that it's going to kill your mix. I've got a 5-voice Prophet 5 that works really well. I would love it to be a Prophet 10 so that all 10 fingers can make a noise. And I get it with sustaining sounds, definitely like with a piano sound or Rhodes sound or something like that. You want all the voices. But if I'm doing a big ambient pad, you get more than 8 voices going. Even in single mode in the Deluxe, you can kill your mix because you've got 16 voices of a huge sound.
So somebody's going for a Christmas bonus this year. Ken says he believes that the spec, it does work. He will do it right now and report back. So get in quick, Ken, because we are getting very close to, well, we're massively over the end time. I really appreciate you staying on, Glenn.
That's fine.
But yeah.
I love talking synths.
If
you can tell, I kind of like them.
Yeah. It's a bit obvious.
We haven't gotten into my sampler collection, my old sampler collection.
I can see your Emacs. Is that a SE?
That's a HD.
HD,
with the SE, and it's got a GoTech and a
nice
SCSI SD on it.
Yeah.
1000, the S550 and the S760, and
nice.
And my Mirage, of course, which I love.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yes, there's some very cool gear there. Very cool gear.
I love old samplers.
Yes. Yeah, well,
I like samplers. Yeah, they're like a brilliant thing that's kind of gone out of vogue, hasn't it?
I'm reviewing this at the moment I've reviewed it years ago, but this is getting published. This is a great book, if you can get hold of this, from Professor Paul Harkins, called Digital Sampling, the Design and Use of Music Technologies. And it's all about sampling from the very early days, Fairlight, and right up to kind of its cultural impact as well as it's really, really good. But yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously I have a thing with samplers and Fairlights and Akais and everything. I just love them. Yeah. Absolutely love them.
I basically lied my way in to get a demo of a Fairlight back in the early days.
Wow.
Fairlight and the Synth Club. I was a student at Pasadena City College.
Oh, yeah.
And we had gotten a demo of the Combrio.
Oh,
the rare Combrio. They were about 2 blocks away from the school, and they invited the class over, and so we all sat down and got this demonstration of the Cambria synthesizer, and that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so I call up Sinclair, who had their offices down in Hollywood, and Fairlight, which was out in West LA.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'm doing a report for my synth class, and I'd like to come in. And they basically took me into the room, and they just let me play with the Fairlight all day. And again, I was just in hog heaven. It was the best thing that I could ever do.
Yeah.
I still want a Fairlight to this day. Just for
that. You know where to come. We've just shipped one out. I say Peter, the guy that I kind of do all the Fairlight repairs for, to Lorne Balfe, composer. He's just taken a Series 3. His dad owned one back in the in the mid 80s, and he posted this picture up. I'll try and get him on the show one day. He posted this picture of him as like a 9-year-old schoolboy with his little jacket and tie on, sat at a Series 3 like he was, and they'd even got an old-fashioned phone on the keyboard as well. It was fantastic. But seriously, if you are interested, gotta say. What was that, Ken? It seems like it is working. 24 voices. There you go.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So, brilliant stuff. Thank you, Synth Addict, for your donation. Much appreciated. Yes, and he says check out Ranzy's stream tomorrow. Brief overview of cool iOS apps, and there are some really cool ones coming out now, and some that are no longer around. So, Ranz kicks off a little bit earlier than normal. Now, is it 12:45 or 1:45 UK time? I can't remember, but it's one of those. But go and find his channel after you've watched us here, and that would be great. And of course, who else have we got? Sunday, we've got Dominic back with Mr. Wiggly's show at 7 p.m. UK time, and is it Fat Dust is the guest this Sunday? And Jamie as well. Jamie's on an hour before Dom, so lots of synth related content. I am going to kind of draw this to a close now because we've been on there such a long time, but it's been we could be here forever, but I can hear my wife chopping firewood downstairs as she's waiting for me to go and join her for a glass of wine or whatever. So I'm very conscious of keeping Glenn for way over the amount of time that I said he would be needed, but thank you ever so much. It's
my pleasure. Anytime.
Please come on again anytime you want to. When you've got something new to talk about, or if you just want to come and have a chinwag, please just let us know.
Just let me know. Let me know anytime.
That'd be cool. Thank you very much. So let's see. Let's round things up here. There was one question that came in on the chat room that had nothing to do with Glenn, but there was a mention of this, and everyone knows I'm a big fan of FM, and the Codemo Essence FM is a synth we featured. It's actually one of our best performing shows, that whole Codemo Essence FM review that we did with Manny Fernandez and Simon, but they've updated their firmware to version 6 in just this last week, and there's a whole ton of great new features, including syncable delays, which wasn't BPM syncable delays and stuff that weren't there before, and lots of really cool stuff that's completely free for all Essence FM owners. Lots and lots of good things, so go over there, and if you haven't checked out the Essence FM, do, because it's a cracking synth. That's the show. Thank you ever so much, Glenn. Thank you, Andrew, for your £5 donation. Very nice indeed. Let's just remind everyone who we've got coming up on the show in the coming weeks, because we have got some crackers to follow on from our great guests already. So next week we've got the legend that is Martin Ware, founding member of Heaven 17, founding member of the Human League, founding member of the British Electric Foundation, and he's a professor and a teacher and an educator, which I guess are the same thing. But yeah, he's just an all-round legend, Sheffield legend, and we are so excited to have him on next week, because we've been trying to get hold of him for ages. The week after that, we've got Drew Schlesinger, who has been programming sounds and patches for the great and the good for many years, and he did send me a list of like every instrument that he's programmed sounds for, and it was just insanely long, and I don't know how anybody's got this much time to do that much programming, but hey. So he's going to be joining us on February the 4th. The week following that, we've got the legend that is Richard Hilton, musical director for Chic. Nile Rodgers' Chic, I guess, is the full name of it, and also a fantastic musician in his own right. And he's worked with the likes of Bowie and Duran Duran and many, many more. So he's going to have some great stories to tell us. Following him, the week after that, we've got Adam Angelo, who we all know in the community as this DIY synth manufacturer. He's developing his Advantage synthesizers, which you can see his prototypes there. So we're going to be asking all sorts of questions about his development of that hardware. We're still waiting on confirmation for the guest the week after that.
He said yes.
He did say yes, but
yes.
Is it yes? No.
As yes as a yes can get, but yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
I don't want to, because I know that as soon as I announce it, he'll say no.
Yeah.
And then we're left with egg on it. So I am going to leave that one. But trust me, if you're a fan of music technology, if you're a fan of music in general, you will not want to miss February the 25th show if this guy does confirm as a yes. I've kind of given half of it. He is a guy. He's a very, very, very famous guy.
Yeah, I've already told him to get his finger out.
Yes, indeed. So, week after that, we've got Dave Bryce, who's a cracking musician, works for a number of companies, has worked for a number of companies over the years. He very graciously supplied us here at the show with some cloud lifters from Cloud Microphones, and also Reverb Foundry, as well as a company he represents. So he'll be joining us. And then following him, we've got the head honcho from Cherry Audio, Dan Goldstein, will be joining us on March the 4th. March the 4th is Dave Bryce. That's our 100th show. March 11th is Dan Goldstein, Cherry Audio. March 18th, we don't have a picture for him yet, but we have got Starsky Carr coming on, who's one of the big synth YouTubers, if that's the term. Did you go R for a reason?
I just remembered that I hadn't done a thumbnail for it.
I thought you were going to say, "Oh, he's pulled out." Okay,
no,
cool.
He's definitely coming, Starsky, and
so you need to do your graphics thing.
I like the way that he does a lot of like in-depth comparisons between things, and he really nails that. So I think it'd be quite interesting to chat with him.
Yeah, absolutely. We've managed to secure the services on April 1st, which is the most perfect date for this guy. Gaz Williams will be joining us April 1st. I gave him a list of dates. He says, I've got to have April 1st. It's me. I said, yeah, absolutely. So you're going to be there. We're also going to be joined on April 8th by Kelly Marie, who is a musician and recording artist. And it's just great to get a female on the show again, because we are sort of like overflowing with aging old white men with beards and lack of hair, and no offense to everybody here, but it'd just be nice to get a girl on. So Kelly Marie will be joining us on April 8th. April 22nd, Michael Whalen is coming back on the show, so really looking forward to getting Mike back on. And we've got a whole bunch of fingers in other pies. So that's who's coming up on the ProSynth Network show live over the coming weeks and months. So much for us taking the foot off the gas in terms of guests. These people just want to come on, so we're going to let them. Gentlemen, again, to all of you, thank you ever so much for coming on, for answering questions, for asking questions, and for generally just being good sorts. It's much appreciated. To everyone that's in the chat room, thank you ever so much. I mean, I think we've had some of our best viewing figures ever today, which is just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So thank you all for coming and watching it. And if you're watching us on catch up,
the moderators as well. Yeah.
Oh yes, we must give them a shout out. So who have we got in there? We've got Sasquatch, we've got Andrew Brooks. Who else are our moderators?
Sass was as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Sasquatch.
Can't remember now.
My iPad's died. I can't see now.
Oh right, yeah. But
Andrew and Sasquatch have been doing a great job.
Yeah.
Tonight.
all of our moderators, thank you ever so much. Your time and effort is appreciated. Also, can I just say, I did put a post up on the Facebook group today. So if you remember last week, we were speaking to Michelle Mokusa, and we were talking about this thing, which is the fantastic Synthesizer Pioneers 2022-2023 18-month calendar. We are in negotiations right now to getting a supply of these over into the UK so that people in the UK can benefit from much cheaper shipping rates and less extortionate import duties by getting them individually, because it kind of works out that the postage and the tax is probably more than the calendar itself. So we are working towards that. If you want one of those and you're in the UK, and obviously we can't do the EU either because of Brexit, it's just so expensive. So we just thought we'd try and start small with the UK. So if you're in the UK and you want one of those calendars, and you don't want to pay extortionate shipping and taxes, then please answer the poll that's on the Facebook group or send us an email. And the email address is info@prosynthnetwork.com, and let us know so that we can kind of like judge the amount that we bring in, because we're probably going to do it once. So yeah, if you're interested, please do let us know. And of course, that will help the Bob Moog Foundation. We'll cover our costs. We might make a few pennies out of it, but we don't. That's not the plan. We just want to sort of help get those out there. So please do let us know about that. But yeah, other than that, thank you ever so much to all the audience. Thank you for watching on Catch Up. Please remember to hit like and subscribe down the bottom there somewhere. It helps us get in front of as many people as possible. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Once again, thank you, Glenn. It's been an absolute honour to have you on the show. Thank you for all your participation. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, have a very safe weekend. Look after yourself. Stay healthy. Things are looking slightly better as each week goes by. So please stay healthy and stay safe. And see you same time, same place next week. Ta-ta. Bye-bye.